Hey everybody, a lot of really great feedback and happy Monday. Hey Sinistella. So there's a lot to do, and let me do this one step at a time. Otherwise, I'm going to be all over the place when I start the stream. So there's a lot of really great feedback, and now I need to uh, process it, prioritize it, and then stabilize the game a little bit so that people who play it this week have a better experience. Yeah, Adam will also be mentoring Kyle at a stream uptime of about 3 hours. Double notification. Yeah, that happens every once in a while. And it's so rare that I just haven't really prioritized looking into it. Yeah, like the last time I think that happened was August 9th. Yeah. So it happens like once every month, maybe. Yeah. Hey, face of the day. When we get what on the blockchain? Hang on a second. I've got a couple things to do off screen. There we go. All right, so that's our today command. We are actually going to start with tenets the same way that we normally have on Mondays. For those who've never seen this process, it's just some principles I want to uphold that I make sure that I look at every week, or else how do I know that I'm upholding them? Today is the 30th, yeah. All right, so tenet review, post stream to-dos. I should probably just drop this while feeling sort of like I'm in crunch mode, even though I'm not really, for Skeleseller. I'm not taking the time to tackle almost any of those to-dos. And the next checkpoint is planned soon enough that I probably still won't have the time. I got to think about that some more. Sustainability, this has been going well. If anything, I think the plans that I'm about to go through with could endanger this. Bricklaying, this is going great. And successes, we launched checkpoint number 3. Hey, Funky Monkey. Yeah, and actually, okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about this. Before I get to that point, let me just make sure I've written down what I think are all the successes we've had here. Yeah, I think it was pretty much that, and feedback has been great. So I want to talk about that feedback part because I have all of you to thank for this. There are two ways that feedback can be valuable, I guess. One is like point out the flaws that can be improved. Well, actually, I guess there are a few ways. Yeah, point out what's going well, and then just give some suggestions. Actually, for whatever reason, I feel like this time around, the feedback as a whole was just more valuable. And it's hard to say exactly why that happened. I think it had to do with how much time we put into the new player experience such that people could just play the game. Like we spent many, many days just trying to make things easier to understand and slowly introduce parts of the game. And there's still work to be done there. It's not like things are perfect. But that's what I attribute this to. So people could get into the game and then they started giving some suggestions that I think were just really good suggestions. I don't know. And there's a lot we need to do. I started processing the action items from all the feedback, and I've got a pretty big list. And we've got to finish doing that. So yeah, I think the next date to mark in the calendar is going to be November 8th. And that'll hopefully be checkpoint number 4. And there's a lot to do for that. People are more up to speed what the game is and isn't. It could be that, but one of the survey questions, let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, yeah. So I had fun playing the game. This is actually now a larger piece of the pie, although we don't have as many responses, so that's probably what that has to do with. But this is the interesting thing here. Of the 22 responses, half of the people had never played Skeleseller before. So I'm not sure about if people are up to speed, because I don't think just watching me develop the game answers a lot of questions that players have. So it's interesting that we got sort of deeper feedback. Now, there is one other thing that I didn't mention here, which is that I might just be perceiving the feedback as being deeper. It's possible there is no real difference and it's just my take on this stuff and I'm just excited or something. But we have gotten, even in the past, I've made these lists of like, here's what we have to do. In fact, we had let me do this off screen too for a second. We had a document after checkpoint number 2. Yeah. Although these were about game design, this document at least. And I wrote a whole bunch of things. I mean, this looks like the other document at a glance. There's a bulleted list of a bunch of stuff that I came up with. I collected up all the feedback that we got. But yeah, the nice thing after checkpoint number 2 is we addressed almost all of this stuff. And we're going to do the same thing with checkpoint number 3. We're going to address at least the biggest things because we don't have as much time this time around. Hey, Boffy. Supreme hey. So that's what I want to do. I want to go through the rest of the feedback. I want to process this stuff. We have done this. We have done this. So yeah, today is going to be process feedback, prioritize, and then stabilize, and mentor. I am too. So the processing is a little weird because I cannot show all of this on stream. In fact, because some people shared their email address or their contact information. I'm not really concerned if I leaked people's Discord names, but still I don't want to do that. But if I leak an email address, I feel like that's a problem. So I'm just going to keep this off screen and we're going to take a look at wherever I left off with this, which unfortunately is a little bit tough. Did I write that down? No, I didn't. Okay, well, then I'm just going to keep scrolling down until we eventually figure this out. Could be there's just more to actually give feedback on. It could be that, yeah. Either way, let me say this. The conclusion is I'm very grateful and I'm very excited because I keep closing tabs that I kind of want to show. Anyway, the feedback being largely positive, I think is good. My general plan now is what I just said about this stuff. Prioritize this. So basically address feedback and plan for checkpoint 4. Then launch checkpoint 4 to the same general audience, like the stream, and then work toward maybe a beta and launch that to a wider audience. So this will be a good way of checking to see that everything is actually correct and that we're confident that the game is going in the right direction. Because you could argue, if almost everybody found the stream or found the game through me, that probably they're a little bit biased toward giving more positive feedback. With a wider audience, that is not the case at all. People are going to be much more honest. Well, people might be honest right now too, and they might either be biased or they might just honestly be positive. Who knows? There's no way to tell right now. So yeah, that's the general plan. And I think this bit about the wider audience is really important. And I'm not totally sure how to reach a wider audience, because we might need to do some like user study kind of thing where I don't know, we like find 100 people and pay them to play the game or something like that. Or whatever. We got to figure this out. Because I don't want to increase the budget of the game. And that's the easiest way to solve practically any problem you have, is just pay money. Certainly not the cheapest. Are your answers fully honest? Checkbox. Then Adam, I'm not sure. Checkbox to it. Like critique and criticism, I can hook you up. How so, Muscle Man? Also, hi. Because I am intrigued. All right, I am scrolling down through feedback on my other monitor. I'm trying to figure out where I left off, because like I said, I wrote all these down, but it's not like these were in order. Someone commented on saving and loading, and I wrote that down and then bounced to some other part of the list. By the way, we have 22 responses, if I didn't make that clear. Locking the shots. Okay, I think I know where I left off. All right, storeroom. We need to figure out the storeroom still. Yeah. Think of this in combination with the storeroom and the UI for equipping. It would probably be frustrating to have to equip items from the ground. I think the storeroom should probably be deposit only for workers so that you can interact with items at your leisure. And perhaps there should be some other use for items beyond selling, questing, and equipping. Maybe some simple crafting, I don't know. Former esports coordinator at college. Have ties to lots of college students and myself. I have no problem not holding no punches. Okay. Muscle Man, this sounds very interesting. Is there like a financial component to this at all? Copy paste what you said here. Or is this purely just like, hey, I can put this game in front of college students? Because that would be amazing. Hey, Phil. Hey, Relio. Services out there allow you to screen and find people for user testing. Tend to be pretty pricey, though, and I'm not familiar with services aimed at gamers. Yeah, so I'm aware that these services exist. And the kind of money, if I were to expand the budget, that I'd be okay paying would be like maybe $5 per user, which I'm guessing it's more expensive than that. And yeah, I'd rather not, of course. Switch to desktop and miss. Oh yeah, here, let me just type it out. Is there some sort of financial component to what you mentioned, or would this be free? Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that would be fantastic. All right, we don't need this document open. We don't need this open. Character's logic of when to go for items. Do I have that written down? No, but I know that this has to be improved. Customers have to act more like customers and not just dart around all over the place and immediately go for all items and have infinite money. Prefer to have more things to do, not that much idle time. Okay, a lot of people have commented that they want to move the camera when you hit the border. Yeah, this. Okay, that's fine. Zoom gesture to pan the camera. Okay, someone did comment on this. For playing on a trackpad, someone said they want to use 2 fingers to pan the camera. Yeah, I'll just write that down. I don't know if we're gonna do that. I feel like there've got to be a lot of games that if you have only a trackpad, that you're like, oh, this isn't that easy to play with. Like you probably wouldn't play an FPS on a trackpad, and you'd probably just get a mouse for that. I don't want to have a settings menu with like 400 options in there, but I also don't want like sort of a low-hanging fruit to go unnoticed. When customers could talk, I was thinking thought bubbles of what items they want. They could have speech lines eventually. I mean, I think that's fine. Customers could even have short speech lines. Yeah. I think most would do it for free or pretty chill. I don't think any college student would say no to free money, though. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, if we cap it at 399 options, I think I'm fine. Muscleman, how should I reach out to you? Like Discord or email, or you send me a message. Any of those is fine. So just let me know. I think it's a lot of good feedback and a lot of good things to take action on. Yeah, that's my TLDR as well. And I wrote down, I've got way too much stuff to sort of chunk through over here. But yeah, I think stabilize for a bit is pretty important. Then I think skill trees might be the best, but maybe the equipping thing is best next. And I don't know. Anyway, this is my very ambitious list. Email and whisper. Okay, cool. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit in terms of, well, not pick up the pace, maybe add more work hours if I can. Although even that's hard. I was thinking about it, and over the weekend I spent a bunch of time. I've also been working slowly on this music track, which is like not It's not progressing at the speed I want it to be progressing. I am already doing a lot of work, but I keep thinking I got to put in more time somehow. So yeah. Thank you, Sir Puffin. Yeah, and hey Goose. All the feedback was super valuable. For those who didn't hear me say this earlier, I am going through it off screen and then processing it into this document so that people know what I'm working on here. I myself clicking on them. Oh yeah. This is another UI thing. Do I have this here? Okay, when forming a party using the party chooser, it's not totally clear whether you've moved an adventurer to or from the battle party. Probably need more obvious separation or just a totally new UI. I'm going to go through it all myself, write up my list, and then you can take that and see if it lines up with yours. Yeah, the way I'm going about this is I'm reading every single line of feedback and turning it an action item here, unless it's something I definitely don't want to do. So if someone is like, add laser cannons to the alchemist or something, it's like, I'm not going to write that down. We're not doing this. But pretty much anything else, even if I don't think we're going to do it, is already going to be here. So for example, this, playing on a trackpad, like, I don't really think we're going to prioritize this, but I'll write it down. Hey, Monadic Bind. All right, skills, selecting different adventurers can make a jump. Yeah, that is a known issue, but I don't think I actually wrote that down. Or maybe I did. Yeah, windows, like the skill tree getting resized. For the skill tree specifically, this changes the layout of the party section and causes the whole dialogue size to change. That's probably something easy we can fix. Not writing down things I think are not going to happen. Oh yeah, all I'm saying, sorry, Ski, I didn't make it clear. What I meant is I don't want you to feel like you put in all this effort and then I'm like, oh yeah, I already captured everything on the list. Because that might be what happens. All right, someone suggested this idea, which I had never thought of. Yeah, consider adding a menu item that lets you open the folder containing your save files. Even if this is just for alpha versions of the game, this is actually a really, really good idea. Lots of people have run into problems and I'm like, oh, can you send me your save file? And then I need to open up this whole like Godot save file location and then find out for their operating system where it's stored. And that process could be made simpler. Yeah, it's this stuff. And I guess it's not that hard. I could have just made a command out of it. In fact, I probably should. Yeah, let's do that. We don't have a save thing already, right? No, we don't. We have a turbo Dave command. acom save. Skeleseller save files are located. Can we link to this table? No. We have to link to this. And it's too high up. Okay, so then let's just copy this. Windows, Mac, Linux. And project name is Skeleseller, so we can just fill that in ourselves. Okay. Make the game extensible. I think that if you have data-driven extensibility, that the game needs to have enough replayability to make you want to change those sorts of things. So a lot of games that have this sort of thing are typically like more traditional RPGs where you could change spell damage and change, I don't know, item drop rates and all this stuff. I think with an automated battle system, it's a little less interesting, but also it's a level of work that I think it can't be on the radar right now. I think we worry about sort of modability and replayability after we've made sure we got a solid game already. Still think it's worth doing as we may have different thoughts on priorities. Mostly just have a conversation about biggest priorities. And yeah, that's true. I'm bucketizing my like the next. Do we have 1.5 months? I guess not really. We really have like the next month. If I were to, I guess we could actually plan it in terms of number of work days, but there's the stabilization, which is process feedback, act on most pressing bugs. And then there's the like new / changed features. And I think it's the things like skill tree, bosses, equipment, whatever else I said, customers, acting like customers. If I had to pick the amount of time we're going to be in stabilization for, it's probably going to be like 2 to 3 days now. And then 2 to 3 days later. And all of this stuff is going to probably take the bulk of the time. 3 instances done, 7 more. Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. By the way, Dark, I didn't clarify this, and I should have. I used the word maximize, and I only briefly saw your message, but I think you said I don't want to maximize it. I think maybe 2x is what's best. That's kind of what I meant, is make it larger and not necessarily make it take up the full screen. But anyway, I will need to think about that still, because I think that making the battle window larger is not a technically difficult problem, because we literally just scale everything by 2. So it should be pretty easy. Yeah, not actual full screen, yeah. Yeah, on Windows 10, that is where app data tends to be, but you don't have to have it in the C drive. And if anyone's ever confused about this, I can always just tell them, put this in the run dialog, and it'll just open that folder anyway. Or even to Explorer, what am I talking about? Yeah, environment variables work in Explorer's address bar. Okay, most engaging part for me was optimizing my team. Recommendation, have a system where you can't increase your characters beyond a certain level until you beat a boss. Did I write that down? Yes, I did. Okay, interactivity was a little low during the fights. Yeah, did I write that down? Yeah. Also think this next month or before the next release, it'd be good to have a Steam build up and running to possibly release a demo on Steam itself. Okay, Ski, I like the idea, but here's like, what does it take to do that? You know, do I need to submit 2 weeks ahead of time? Because if that's the case, I think this is not a possibility. But if it's like, you know, just upload some executables, then that's feasible for sure. Something you could look into. Yeah. And it mostly comes down to this. If it's this, then we're good. If it's anything other than this, like there's any sort of review process, I just don't think we can do it. We don't have a lot of time before the next checkpoint. And I could just change when the checkpoint is, to be honest. Maybe we should do that. Anyway, we don't have a lot of time before the next checkpoint, and I would want to do a user research session before that. Hey, APX, hey, Unknown. Unknown, thanks for your email that you sent back. Is the feedback doc public? No, none of the feedback's going to be public, and this could be made public. This is the action items from the feedback, but there's, I mean, it would just be so that you could look through it. Yeah, there's technically nothing private here. I think it's something I can handle, though I'd probably need to do some commits. The issue that I have is purely a timeline one, which is like this last time around, I was working on Thursday, the day before we launched the alpha, and I made like 16 commits. And without those, people would have been in really bad shape. And I don't want to tarnish, I don't know how badly it would tarnish, but I don't want to tarnish the reputation of the game with a demo that's not clearly labeled alpha or something like that. Hey, so very sour. Yeah. Also, I'm not super concerned. Okay, there's another thing I guess I need to say here, which is I still feel like checkpoint number 4 is maybe the last alpha build, with alpha being the operative word here, and that beta is hopefully like more approachable by totally new users. Hey, Kevin. Chat about this later, but the review is only for the first build as far as I understand. Yeah, I don't recall from the Botland days. I do recall that Apple does a review every time. But yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, anyway, yeah, we'll chat about it later. I think that's fine. Okay, a bunch of people commented on this. People think the playback system is a bug for music. I kind of wondered, like, do we have a setting for this? It starts with the Minecraft style. Is the C in Minecraft capitalized? I don't think so, right? No. It starts with a Minecraft style playback, but has an option to just loop constantly. I don't know. I don't really think I want a setting for that anyway. All right, pros, adventure classes are great. Really enjoy their skills. Adventures and dungeons are fun. Setting the game on auto battle and checking in when I need a mental break is a lot of fun. Love to see a 10-hour version of this. Cons, healing. Yes, that is definitely con. Gameplay. I think we need to just write like adventurer balance. Specifically, healing is wonky. Paladin doesn't heal enough. Cleric heals too much. Did I hear Apple review? Oh, I was talking about for Botland at least. We don't have an Apple review for this game, thankfully. It's the first build that they review. It takes like a week. Every upload after that. Okay. Steam has Next Fest October 14 to 21. Yeah, Ski told me about these dates, although not the one in October. We almost there's no way we can hit the October one. That's just an impossibility at this point. Healing is fine, don't touch it. All right. Also, people have commented on this a bunch of times, which is like I want some evolution for my adventurers. And they comment on things like, what if the warrior turns into a knight or something, or the mage turns into a warlock? And I think Final Fantasy 1 did this. I think I brought this up a while ago. Final Fantasy 1, like, I don't even know what you write here. Character upgrades. Job upgrade, yeah. Do they have the pictures here? They don't. Anyway, yeah, warrior turns, oh wow, warrior does turn into knight. Monk turns into master. Thief turns into ninja. There's a certain critical, like a threshold of feedback that if literally everyone who plays your game says something, you probably have an action you need to take. But with something like this, it's only a couple of people saying it, and it's an opinion thing. It's not like the game needs evolutions of your adventurers, but it does kind of make me think, like, we're gonna add a skill tree, like a proper skill tree. What if there was an ultimate skill, but only one adventurer could have one on your team? The cleric could be like mega heal, and the mage could be like capitalize fireball. um, I don't know. I don't think this is a good idea right off the bat, but something like that maybe, because a lot of the issue with an evolution of sort of anything in a game is typically you want extra graphics for it too. And I just don't want to do that. I don't want to have like, cleric A and cleric B, and we double the artwork requirement out of any adventurer. Gonna include my thoughts from the email, the Skeleseller Discord later. Yeah. And by the way, Unknown, I don't know if you saw the responses in the Discord, but one of the things that we talked about that were changes from what I had emailed you about were time-based durability. I guess it's not really durability, but yeah, time-based expiration. And the other was the ability to trash an item that you equipped, so you can equip a new one. Which I guess could just be drag it onto the slot again, and it could just confirm. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm going to write that down here so I don't forget. Where did I write the equipment thing? Yeah, allow for equipping items. To trash an old item, perhaps you just drag it onto the slot. Drag a new item onto the slot you want to trash. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. The evolution will make warrior better? No, actually, the evolution for warrior makes them worse. When the warrior evolves, they turn into Magikarp, and they gain the struggle ability. I agree. I don't care much about the evolution thing. Well, this is okay. It's definitely an opinion thing. Some people want it, some people don't. But it fulfills like a certain player fantasy that exists, as does equipment. But equipment we're probably adding, which I'll eventually talk about a little bit more. And then some skills from different classes can combine to create stronger effects. Yeah. Skill tree has different branches. Yeah, yeah. So that's possible, but just kind of unlikely, only given that we'd have to design a ton of skills, and I just feel like the battle system smooths out all the differences to the point where you're just kind of playing in a good enough sort of way. Time-based thing doesn't sound as good as durability. To me, it seemed like the backup slots would handle the idle part of the game. They would. I just think it'd be a little bit harder to, well, I don't know. Maybe we can't really do both, I guess. That would be a little bit complicated. But yeah, I'll need to think about that too. But I'm leaning toward the time-based system. Think about expiration being time versus number of uses versus number of, no, that's probably it, yeah. If I played Baldur's Gate 3, about a third of it, maybe? Something like that. Okay. Different colors on the sprites, I guess, would be doable because we don't need to make new sprites for that. What am I discussing here? So, brief intro to this. Also, hey, Trackley. Brief intro to this is on Friday, we launched version 0.3 of Skeleseller. So this represents the third such release that we had of this. So now it's currently playable. If you go to itch, you can download it and you can try this game. I'm not going to go into what the game is exactly yet. What we're doing today, right now, is we're going through the feedback that people submitted through the game itself. And I'm just compiling it for now. Then we're going to prioritize it, and then we're going to start tackling some of it. And there's just a lot of work ahead of us. Yeah. Like I'm debating on adding another stream day once per week or something like that. I'm not sure. Oh no. Someone submitted feedback and it pushed my scroll bar. Now I need to find where we were again. I appreciate the feedback. And I know Unknown said they just submitted it. Well, where did this go? Oh, I hope this isn't reordering them. Oh my God, hang on a sec. All right, let me change this. I'm just gonna look at individual things. Hope you enjoyed the break. I didn't actually treat it as a break. Although I did enjoy my weekend. It was a good weekend. But I did a bunch of work on Saturday. I like started this document. I shared out the feedback with the team. I had to redact email addresses from that. I planned a bunch of other things. I came up with the equipment system. I might as well talk about this equipment system. So I saw this earlier and just didn't click the suggestion. The emoji. Okay, so I said I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I thought of how equipment could work. So the way that this system will probably function, and I'll pull up the game so you can just kind of see what I have in mind. Because I'm finally caving to this, but the idea struck me as I was going through feedback, and I'm like, oh my God, this could actually work. So you've got this portal here. Imagine if there's something equipped on it and it gives you some slots. So you've got 3 item slots, and it's a weapon, a potion, and an armor. So that's what these slots are. And you can drag an armor into this or whatever. Do we have a sword emoji? No, not that way. We don't. Okay, so imagine if you do something like this where you're like, oh, I'm going to drag my weapon into the weapon slot. So now it is equipped. And the way that I planned on it working, and I'm going to go over this at a high level, is that when you start a battle, whatever is equipped gets applied to your adventurers. So maybe this sword is something like +2 attack for 1 adventurer for the whole battle. So in this case, you start a party with five characters, and one of them gets +2 attack. Okay, cool. Like that's all. Eventually, this thing expires somehow after maybe 5 battles or after 2 minutes, and that's it. It just breaks and it's gone. So now your items can be sold, in which case they'll earn you money. They could be equipped, in which case they'll earn you some buff, and then they'll go away and they won't earn you money. Or they could be used for quests. So there's a little bit more of a decision you have to make there. And the act of dragging items into the slot. And the reason why this affects battles and kind of all of your adventurers is because right now in the game, we already have Hang on one sec. I gotta change this at some point. Okay. Right now in the game, we have 7 adventurers, and if you had an item for each one of them, or 3 items for each one of them, I could just imagine you being like, okay, take the cloak and put it on this character, and take the whatever and put it on this character, and take this and put it on, and you just be dragging items constantly, and I don't think it'd be fun. So rather than have that, we're just gonna have this set of equipment, and eventually you can unlock more rows of this. So you could choose to equip, let's say, 3 swords, and when this one breaks, it'll just kind of bump the list up by 1. So it'll fill in this thing, and then when this one breaks, it'll do the same thing and bump this up. You could also look into 297 instead, so you don't have to make the entire equipment system. Let me see. Add item smelter. Wait a sec, what? Where was your suggestion? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll have to read this. Thinking about a situation where you have lots of item drops, all item displays are full. You just want to do something else with the dropped items. Town can have some kind of smelter or dismantle machine, depending on the item type, would grant the following buffs. Okay, so this is similar to the equipment system, and that items can turn into a buff. Yeah. There are some interesting things here. In the, like, we'd have to compare these systems. But the equipment system was max of 3 buffs at a time, and items are usable without any sort of processing. And in the smelter system, or smelting system, I guess, I'm not sure how many the maximum number of buffs you would have is, but items need to be processed to provide buffs, and possibly a different max number of buffs. I think my M key is broken because I am not typing M as many times as this is. Where is my M key? There it is. Yeah, it's definitely broken. Pry this off the keyboard. Doing some traveling, didn't get a chance to play the release. How'd it go? It went really well. There were a couple of like game-breaking issues that I addressed, and now a bunch of little issues that I don't think get in the way too much, other than saving and loading, which I really just shouldn't have even exposed in the game, knowing that they're broken, because I got a lot of feedback about how they're broken. And I don't fault anyone for submitting that feedback. I just shouldn't have even opened myself up to that. Anyway, okay, so my thoughts based on what were in this message here. A few things. One, the entire balance of the game is going to change drastically. So having items on the ground that disappear is something that I don't think should probably happen at the beginning of the game as much as it does for some people. And if you are losing items, then it implies that something needs to change in the town itself. And then at the end of the game, the current end of the alpha is just unfinished. That's all. So it's like, yeah, that's why you're getting 1 million items, because I was like, oh, I'll just make this fun for players. When you get to the end, you just get 1 billion items. And people took it as a challenge almost of like, how do I collect all these items? How do I sell them all? And I never intended for that to happen. I was just like, yeah, I'll just give you 1 million items. And people are like, this is stressful. I want to sell these. Shiny Temptation was too strong, and it didn't even seem to break his game. It does in a little bit of a weird way. You end up with 2 shops that are stacked exactly on top of each other. So if you're looking closely, you'll see that items can be placed on both shops, but it's not obvious that that can happen. So what I could do here is I could save and then load, and then I guess you can't build that one again, but I could build this and then save and then load and then build this again. And now if I grant myself items, oh, I gotta win a battle for it to, okay, so now if I grant myself items, I can put an armor here and I can put an armor behind it. Do you see that? So now they're stacked on top of each other. So that's the way that it breaks the game. It's not like it crashes or anything. but it clearly it looks kind of wonky and probably doesn't work how you would expect. Oh wait, is this a feature? This is not a feature. This is a bug. You should not be able to build the same shop multiple times. But it's a bug with saving and loading where I don't save the state of the signs, so the signs reappear. And I knew about this. I even had this on my list before I launched the game. I was just like, yeah, people probably aren't going to save and load. But a lot of people saved and loaded. And I think one person even saved at like the very beginning of the game. It's and that caused a bigger problem. Was it always there? The bug, you mean? The bug was only there when I added in signs that let you build the shop again. Because the real reason that this happens is when you load, there's my one armor smith, and this is working fine. But then I have a condition in the game that when you get enough money, it puts another sign here. So once I added signs is when this bug was in. Yeah. So technically you can end up with an infinite number of, like if I save this again, whoops, save, and then load, and then grant money, and then build, and then save, and then load, and grant money and build. We should now have 4 armor smiths. You can actually see the shadow of this is almost like a solid black bar, whereas the shadows of these are very gray, which means that these are stacking 4 times. So now if I grant items, which unfortunately I have to go through this again. All right, so now we can put 1, 2. I'm not going to get there before the customers do. Yeah, anyway, you can fit 4 of these. Just trust me. Yeah. If we grant items one more time, we can put a cloak there too. Yeah, there we go. So now when the customers come over here, they'll buy 4 of these things. The shopkeep also duplicates. Yeah, everything is duplicating here. Yeah, so there you go. There you have it. Okay, sorry. I need to find out where I was in the feedback. Jank with the text overlapping. The janky part is that we have 4 shops on top of each other. So if the shops weren't on top of each other, then items couldn't stack on top of each other. So I think the real jank is just like you shouldn't have 2 shops on top of each other. All right. Someone suggested that we start keeping track of playtime sooner rather than later, and then people could have a report button for that. I think it would be nice. I just don't think it's going to be something we can get to for the next checkpoint. All right, sorry, give me a sec. I'm trying to find out where in the feedback we are. Okay. Yeah, someone commented that some of the dialogues are unclosable. And they pointed out the alchemist thing. When you click the sign, there's no way to close this. That was actually intentional because there's no way to progress in the game if you could close this. So I don't think I'm going to do anything about that, but I think they mentioned one other one that's not closable, and it was, so I can't do it because I have all the adventurers. But if I don't have all the adventurers, oh, hey, Z-Wubs, sorry. Reason I asked about BG3 is they have great UI for different types of skill and ability distribution that you could draw inspiration from. Great UI for different types of skill and ability distribution. I'm trying to think. I can only think of the brainworm UI and the level up UI. I can't think of where else you could see those trees. Anyway, let's take a look at this. So the first one you hire, you can't close that. Then if you hire another one, yeah, so now does this person offer it? Yeah. Want to hire another one? We say yes. Okay, so this one can't be closed, right? All right, that could be considered a problem. You can't close the hire adventurer dialogue. Did I already write that down somewhere? Yeah, after you've already paid for the adventure. All right, throw on response number 13 out of 24 now. This one I already processed. Okay, so 14 out of 24. Okay, this person said I like the concept. In the beginning, I struggled because you have to play very actively. There's no auto battle. Don't have NPCs to move a lot of items. More sense if it was manually controlled. Yeah, I guess that's not something I had thought of. If you directly controlled your skeleton character, this is potentially a pretty big suggestion. Grant manual control over your character, the skeleton. My gut feeling is that this would create more problems than it would solve. But you could just eventually automate the entire skeleton and you become a helping hand of sorts. I don't know. I'll just write it down. That's all. Yeah. Okay, sprite bleed, UI covering other things, UI needs to be themed. Oh yeah, moving the camera with the arrow keys or anything. Moving the camera via the keyboard can cause issues when buttons steal the focus. Put together, settings button. Stores so much values, NPCs move fast, need an application icon. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Yashar. Backstory and tutorial, more adventures, higher max level, more shop types, battle types, more. More shopkeeper types. I was taken, it would make sense for adventurers not to act as stalkers. I like that idea. Although maybe I'm misinterpreting this a bit, but could have more fantastical customers, e.g. Pixie, that can fly between shops. Something like that. Have a market price for items and then let there be a bit of flexibility on how you price yours with customers choosing not to buy if it's too expensive. So that's a system. Oh, that's your feedback? I'm surprised it's his first time chat for you, but welcome. Welcome to the stream. Yeah. I'm doing well, Yashar. Okay, so this was something in Moonlighter, and I didn't like this system of pricing items yourself. And the reason I didn't like it is because I felt like it was boring to do after the first like 2 to 3 times. And the reason why is it's basically like binary search the game. If you have a random item and you know that the price can be somewhere between 0 and 1 million, then you have basically 10 guesses you need to make. And it's not fun to do. You price it at 500K. If it's too high, you go down to 250K. If it's too low, you go up to 375K, and so on and so forth until you finally realize that, oh, it's supposed to be 312,000, whatever, 456. And it's like, was it fun getting there? I don't think so. And I think a lot of times you're like, I could optimize it. I just don't care. So you end up coming up with something that's a little bit lower than it could be. So that's why I don't end up doing this. Make the market fluctuate. You could, but still it's like, then I guess you need to keep tweaking the values of your items. I just don't think it's a fun decision. I think it's just a decision. And it'd be like if every once in a while I just had you click a bell to like summon customers. You'd be like, just click the bell for me. Be great for visual interest. Yeah, actually, what I kind of like this a little bit more as, maybe it makes more sense to have a flying adventurer that could restock without taking paths. I think that could be kind of cool. How's a customer pathfinding work? Can I purchase some cafes next to shops and have a bunch of customers hang around there? The pathfinding is based on a navigation mesh, which we could always change. So right now it's set to be the paths and the sort of walkable areas up here, and anything that gets in the way. So for example, these, are considered obstacles. So we could add in a cafe or something and just modify the navigation. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not saying that this is like a totally unenjoyable aspect for everybody. Clearly, Moonlighter did well. I don't like the system, and I think that adding it in does not result in the kind of gameplay that I think is that I think works with this game. And who knows? Maybe that's a bad idea, right? Maybe I should be adding it in. Maybe I should be accepting other sorts of ideas here too. I just think from a game design perspective, I just dislike the system. And at the end of the day, I feel like I need to make a game that I also want to make. The other thing too about if you had a game mode for this sort of thing, we're essentially increasing the development cost for something that you either have on or off. So there's a portion of the player base who experiences this system that I coded, and then a portion that doesn't experience it, and that is just rough on development time. Yeah, seems better for a pure active game to micromanage. Not something I expect to be able to walk away from for half an hour and have and not fall apart. Yeah, and the way you'd I guess do this is you'd have, if you were to code this, you'd have these fluctuations in market price. You'd have some like baseline guarantee of a sale. I don't know why I put that in quotes. So that way you could sell an item for somewhere in the range of like 5 to 18 depending on the market. So you just set it to 5 and walk away from the game. I think the way I want to expose this, by the way, is customer desires for items. So imagine there's a customer walking around. You have a smiley face thing. And they have a speech bubble above their head. And in here, it's got a sword. Is there a thought bubble? Yeah. So imagine something like this. So it's like, oh, hey, I know where I found those. Those were in the forest too. And you go back to that instance and you fight and you collect a sword. And now that customer buys one and they spend an extra, whatever, 3 times the amount of money they would have spent. I feel like that's a good way of exposing something that still, if you had never looked at this, you never would have found a sword. You never would have made the extra 3x sale price or something like that. But if you are looking at this, it gives you something else you can do, and in a way that the game doesn't need a new system to allow. Like, you already find swords, you already sell swords. It just happens to be this one sells for more now. I think people could like watching customers buy the thing and move the price based on that. You even have the customers emote, wow, what a deal. Yeah, I get how the feature would work. I just don't like it. That's what I'm trying to say. When I was playing Moonlighter, I thought it was an unfun system. And I recognize, like I said, that this, my opinion, is not super important when you look at Moonlighter's sales, for example, and you see that this was an overwhelmingly positive game that was bought by tons and tons of people. Well, not overwhelmingly positive anymore, but still, this probably sold like 500,000 copies on just Steam, and it's on more platforms than just Steam. So what I'm trying to say is I think we can accommodate some of those same desires in other systems that I don't find to be, I don't know, sort of like value subtractions in my mind. All right, let me see what else is on this feedback. Town progression, building cosmetics, resources for building shop and upgrading them. Yeah, I don't have this written down explicitly, but I feel like I probably should somewhere. Need more types of buildings, even if they're just cosmetic. Yeah. 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 I guess I kind of look at this as suggestions fall into any number of categories. There are the transformative ones, like, I don't know, add this system. There are the additive ones, which are something like tweak this system slightly. There are the sort of opinion ones, I guess, which are things like I want to customize my adventurer's clothes or something like that. These aren't mutually exclusive categories, right? You could have an opinion-based one that is adding a totally different system. We're getting a lot of feedback that I definitely want to add in, either bug fixes or suggestions on how to work through some of the issues we have, or even brand new systems. I mean, look, it was kind of a meme in the stream for a long time of like, I'm like, I do not want to add in equipment. And I had reasons why I didn't want to add it in. And we found a way to work around those reasons and still get equipment. So we're probably going to add in equipment now. So it's possible that we hear feedback about, hey, I'd like to control item prices a bunch of times. And I end up finding a system that I'm like, okay, this isn't just a binary search, you know, modulo item fluctuations. All right, let's see what else we have here. Okay, yeah, cool. All right, so that was number 14. Now we're on number 15. I should probably just write this at the top. On number 15. All right. This one is equipment, new game plus. A few people have asked for this. I should probably write this down. New game plus. My stance on this, by the way, has been essentially, this is not a game with replayability, and that's not a problem. That's how I've been looking at this. Lots of games, this would be a problem. If you make any sort of roguelike game and you don't have replayability, you've already hampered your game. So you need to be thinking about what replayability is. However, if you make, I use this as my example all the time, but Super Mario RPG is the game that was really good and sold well enough that Nintendo made a remake of it and still sold really well, and yet it's got practically no replayability. At least not in the game itself. You can always come up with ways and challenge runs and whatever, but like, you get all the party members, you get all the items, there are no major choices, you have to go back and change. You play the game once and you're like, yeah, I experienced it. And that's kind of what I think about for Skeleseller. We haven't built in replayability from the beginning because that's not the kind of game I'm looking for here exactly. It's not some like play this for 70 hours. It's like play this for one playthrough, and maybe after a year there's some new features or something, or you forgot how you played the game and you play it again and you have fun again. So a new game plus, I don't know how it would fit in because yeah, we just don't have a system that would support this. And a lot of games, the way they do it, when I think new game plus, what I think is start a new game, keep something from the old game or the old save file, and tweak the gameplay somehow. So at a high level, this is what I think. Everyone agrees on the first part. It's called new game, so it's start a new game. But yeah, keeping something and tweaking the gameplay somehow. And this isn't even a guarantee. Not everyone agrees on this. It could be literally the exact same game, and you got something different from your old file. So a roguelite. Yeah, what I'm saying is I'm not making a game with a lot of like randomization and different systems and, oh, this run is different from this run. It's like there are little ways in which that's true. You end up with different adventurer options. So for example, your first choice or your second choice, your first choice is always the same, but your second choice could be maybe like the paladin versus the witch doctor. And my second choice could be something like the cleric versus the archer. And now our games have already forked at just the very second choice that we got. But it's not a very meaningful fork given that battles are automated. So ways in which, if we wanted to make this game more replayable, I think we would do it through the adventurers somehow. So maybe you get a choice of like 5 adventurers and you can have duplicates. So maybe your team ends up being archer times 5 and maybe it's great, maybe it's terrible, who knows? And someone else ends up with a balance of like, okay, I got 1 paladin, 1 cleric, 1 witch doctor, 1 whatever else. That could be a way of doing it. I think balancing that would be very difficult. By the time party composition matters, you have everyone. In the current game, yeah. In the way the game is going to play out, I want there to be at least 12 adventurers. And I think your party composition is going to start mattering when you hit roughly the same number you have in the current game. So maybe around like 6. Party comp matters. But you'll eventually have 12, and then figuring out your parties and optimizing them, I think, is going to be a much funner issue than it currently is, or much more fun endeavor. All right, so now we're on number 16. All right, this person suggested we make the music lower when you first launch. What is it? Yeah, what do I have it set to? Game constants? No. It was like settings, local settings. I don't recall where I put this. Here it is. Yeah, so it just exists in here. Yeah, the music is set to 80% and the master volume is set to 100. So first of all, I wonder, should this be set to 90%? Like, should a game always have a way of bumping up the volume in the game without you having to change your speaker or headphone volume? And if we made it 90%, would that be good enough? Or should we lower music to 70% or something? I only heard this feedback from one person, but I think it's reasonable enough to do because starting a game with the volume a little bit too low is a very easy problem to solve for everybody. You just turn up your volume or go into the settings. Yeah, so anyway, I'll have to think about that a little bit. The escape menu, back to game is an awkward place. There should be setting close to other menus. To close other menus when pressing a new one. Yeah. Yes, people don't necessarily like having so many different dialogues open. E.g. from NPCs, the start battle screen, the skill tree, etc. Some of that's going to be addressed. And then others will have to probably think a little bit more. Add overall, add a place. This is explained. Certain items. Maybe add a tips screen or something that can explain the game. Lots of Nintendo games do this. Yeah. Hey, Peplon. Okay, so that was number 16. Now we are on 17. This is of 24, by the way. It would be fun to have different villages that compete with our village and connect it with the adventure quests. And get certain quests that would grant new items or help other villagers. I'd like to be able to equip items. Okay, equipment we talked about. Bosses we talked about. Adventure quests that have a backstory and would change the abilities of said adventurer. Quests for a backstory. Oh man. I want to come back to that. I have this written down somewhere else, but I don't know where it is, and I'll have to come back to that. Okay, yeah. So I think this is mostly incorporated. So now we're on number 18. I'm going to try to go through this quicker. All right, experience points. Oh. Consider adding experience points. A bunch of people have said this too. This is one of the things I almost find a little bit unfortunate about some game development. Also, sorry, Miguel, I had missed your message. Minor fluctuations in price, keep it interesting, motivate you to play or interact more. Yeah. Yeah, so experience points. The thing that I find a little bit disappointing to some extent is like, imagine the impact that Tolkien had on fantasy. We came to our understanding as gamers of what orcs do and look like and sound like, and what dwarves sound like, and elves and whatever else, magic systems, and even I feel like all fantasy that came after Tolkien was impacted by Tolkien somehow. And with RPGs, you think about what is sort of typical to you in RPGs, and you probably think about things like experience points, leveling, maybe items, maybe skill trees, maybe a whole bunch of other stuff. And this isn't always true. Of course, you don't need this stuff in a game, but it's probably what you think of when you think of an RPG. And enough people look at the game that I'm making and think of other things that it reminds them of, and then sort of expect those systems. Oh, gotcha. Double auto, yeah. And I'll share a story about this. So I made Botland a long time ago, and it was a game on phones and also on computers, but the phone part is what I want to focus on. And someone at some point said, hey, it would be nice to have a bonus for logging in. And from my point of view as a game designer, I was like, okay, consider what that bonus does. Maybe let's just make something up. Let's say you get 5 bot coin by doing this. And then eventually it turns into 10 bot coin, and eventually that turns into 15, and it caps out with you getting some like rare gift at day 30. I don't know, whatever, something like that. And a lot of mobile games do this sort of thing. This is one way of exposing that you're getting rewards. And a way of also doing this could be that you have essentially baked in this reward to your game progression, your balance, such that rather than assuming you're getting on average 7 more Botcoin per day, we just make everything cost 7 Botcoin less, for example. I know they're not identical, but enough other mobile games did this where I think that's what gave them this idea. And I recognize there is value to presenting something as a reward to the player. And this is another game design thing that I think WoW kind of struggled with at first. They had an experience penalty for playing too much. And they changed it to an experience reward for not playing. And people love this system, but they hated this system apparently. This was something during like beta of World of Warcraft. And it's the lesson here as a game designer is if you can make something feel positive, even if it turns out to be a negative when framed the other way, make it feel positive because the player will be happier. And that's where I think this thing sort of came in, is like, hey, it feels good when I feel like I'm getting a reward. And it doesn't feel good when I think, oh, the game designer, I'm just trusting that they baked this into their progression. So why did I talk about this? Oh yeah, experience points. So experience points are just a sort of standard expectation when you come to games like this. And I'm not sure how I want them to fit into the game, but I think that they generally do bad things when you get a new party member and they start at a lower level than everybody else. And even if you start them at the same level, but then you don't use them, and then when you finally go to use them, you're like, well, they're 20 levels lower than everyone else. Do I want to use them? Hey, Caleb. So I'm still going to think about this. The way I heard this best proposed for Skeleseller was, what if adventurers got experience points for fighting and you could always just pay to train them to level up? So maybe you're at 0 out of 100 experience and cost to train would be 5 gold. But if you're at 50 out of 100 experience, the cost to train could be 3 gold or something like that. So it's like, okay, the experience is basically just earning you some money. I'm fine with a system like this, but then any extra UI element or system adds some complexity, and is it worth the complexity? And I just don't think so right now. So that's why it's not in the game. But yeah, it's something to think about. So let's go on to the next one. We are on number 19. It's just stuck on loading for some reason. Oh, there it goes. Okay, minor bugs, game's overall good and stable, healing problems. Oh yeah, this was something interesting. This is just a UI thing specifically, but consider putting the positive option for a dialogue, okay / accept, on the right, and the negative option, close / cancel, on the left. Just gotta make sure that's consistent, but I haven't thought about this stuff yet. Oh yeah, put keybinds somewhere in the game. Also explain all of the keybinds or make them customizable. Okay. Next, we are on 20. Okay, this person, I think we talked about this. Yeah, make it take longer before items disappear. I think this added sort of an interesting, I don't know if tension's the right word. I think it was stress for some players. Like, I'm getting all these items and I want to be able to sell them, but they're disappearing before I can do that. And it's interesting reading the feedback and seeing what this kind of caused players to do. So yeah, a lot of people are like, that represents a loss to me. I want to address this. Yeah, I'm gonna make them take longer, but I think there are other things we can do about that too. Right after announcing, you need to find the guild. Yeah, this is a like beginning of game sort of thing. I guess I'll just write it here. But when the skeleton says they need to hire adventurers, People want to look around for themselves. Maybe that should be their tutorial to move the camera and find the guild sign. Yeah, I like that idea. We should still clamp camera boundaries somewhere. It should just be a larger area. Yeah. The motivation to progress such that it doesn't happen. Yeah, I think so. And I think here's a problem with an alpha version of a game is you have to stop somewhere and the game's not done. So lots of people have commented that they got to the end, so they're fighting in the final location and they beat it and they've got it on farm basically, so they're just beating it repeatedly. And they're like, what do I do now? And unfortunately, it's like, well, that's just where I happen to stop developing. It's not like this is intended to be the end of the game. But people find all these items and they're like, I want to sell all these. And yeah, like, what's the next challenge in the game? So I think it's a good sign that people are getting to that point and they're like, I want more. And we need to make more at some point. Or you had to unlock classes under certain conditions. Yeah, you unlock an extra class after reaching some level with whatever character. Yeah, I think what we can do for that is we can make it so that the guildmaster can't offer you certain classes until you've met certain conditions. Although we need to be a little bit careful about how that works. We could also just make it so that you unlock the class completely, like you get them on your team when you do a certain thing. But I'm not sure what that thing would be. I think it could be kind of interesting to base it on the, like sort of like achievements, like heal for 500 life, unlock the cleric. And you get the healing through the paladin or something like that. I don't know. A notice or toast or some sort of way for the game to tell you you unlock new dungeons to explore. Yeah, the game definitely needs to do that. The game needs to tell you that you've unlocked new locations. I think we need a special UI for that, like a map UI. All right. Yeah, okay. So now we're on 23. For my first playthrough, I approached the game as an idler, and I've never read this before, by the way. At least I don't think so. It's frustrating to periodically look over at my second monitor while working and see items disappearing on the ground. Most enjoyable part of that playthrough was Volcano 3, where I was forced to find a group of adventurers and combinations of skills to beat the battle. Yeah, this is another gameplay thing that I think we need to sort of think about. I wrote this thing about bosses capping your level progression. But I was thinking bosses could also be where you have to optimize your party. Yeah, rationale. A lot of players said it was fun to figure out optimal parties at the end. But I don't think everyone will find this fun. So doing this for bosses could be a cool challenge. And framing them as boss monsters makes it clear that you have to do something special. Yeah. I think having, oh yeah, I read that. Okay. Hey, Dig. My feedback. I was completely wrapped trying to figure out how to beat Volcano 3. Yeah, and I hope boss monsters can do this because boss monsters don't have to be too crazy from an implementation perspective. From an art perspective, it's a new graphic, probably more detailed than the others because it's probably larger. So there's a bigger art impact. But then from the code perspective, it's like we need, well, not even code, I guess. Design perspective, we need to figure out the sort of gimmick of the boss. So like, are they, maybe they can only take 1 damage at a time, or they reflect all spells cast or something like that, right? So what's the gimmick? And then the coding perspective is just go code that gimmick. So that's it. The cost is pretty cheap for this stuff. And I like the idea of these gimmicks because something like this, okay, they can only take 1 damage at a time. What does this make you think? Well, it makes you think, okay, I need to do lots of attacks then, or damage over time or something like that. And that makes you think a little bit differently and then have to go get that party together and maybe even customize them a bit. So I like this idea. I definitely want to do this. Yeah, it's just hyper redacted. Who's going to get fixed at some point. Well, the boss, it does necrotic status where you can't heal and forces you to focus DPS. Yeah. Something like that I think is great. And in fact, I think we have some of these boss ideas somewhere. Whoops. Boss ideas. Yeah. Can't take damage from anything other than itself. It takes 1 damage per turn. You have to outlive it. It takes 1 damage from all sources. A boss that prevents you from healing your party. Yeah. Yeah, there are going to be lots of ideas there. You have to flee the boss who dies from laughter. Really need to finally make use of the Atom Sprite. Yeah, when we have customers acting like customers and they want special things, then yeah, I think my character can come in and always want something that you have, maybe. But yeah. Okay, anyway. Let's see. For my second playthrough, I played more actively and had some fun quickly dragging items as battles completed to try to maximize income. I was able to max out my 4 main adventures fairly quickly this way. But again, the most fun part was Volcano 3, as everything before that, I felt like my decisions didn't really matter. Yeah. I'm going to add this as a question for the next time. General gameplay. Does it feel like your decisions matter? There's been some feedback from players who said that there wasn't really a need to optimize battles until the final ones. I'm hoping that boss monsters address some of that and that skill trees address another part of it. Boss that returns some damage. Yeah. That damage every time they're attacked. So you need adventurers with low or high cooldowns. Hey Bigfoot, I'm doing well. I am pretty excited about everything that needs to be done. I am very daunted by the amount of work that needs to be done. I don't think it's that any of it's going to be too hard. It's just if you look at any of my lists right now or my issues or any of that, it's like there are a ton of things and so many of them seem reasonable to do. Like if you were to look at any of this feedback that we have here, not this one, something like, I don't know, something like this. Make items take longer before they just disappear. This in particular does not, this is like a 10-second long change. I could just do this right now. So this is not a great example, but there are lots of changes that maybe take like 5 minutes where you can't do them instantaneously. They still take some time, and yet they are clear wins, and yet they're not high priority. Yeah. What? Debbie? I'm gonna purge this message. I'm not timing you out or anything, but do try to stick to English in chat. I feel overwhelmed by the things you need and that it's suddenly too hard to start. I don't think it's too hard to start. Okay, here's my real concern. My real concern is that originally I aimed for the end of 2024 to launch this game. That is now 100% impossible. Like there's no way to get done with what I want to get done with. So I'm starting to say early 2025. I could very easily see that being like, oh, mid 2025. And then we're like, well, we need to polish and now it's late 2025. That's my concern, is that we're just going to keep bumping the timeline on this. And there's a point where you could release your game and it'll make as much money as it would ever make, but you don't know that you've hit that point. So maybe 80% of your game is as good as your game ever needs to be, but you'll never know. And you only get one launch. Well, at least on Steam. So I don't know. That's what's scaring me a bit. Boss had a special kind of attack that just deals +1 damage incrementally. You have to figure out a way to quickly defeat him. I like that idea, yeah. I think it's gonna be cool coming up with boss ideas too. I don't even know how many bosses we're gonna need. Where did the boss stuff go? Yeah, here. Hey, Beardage. Big updates post-launch help the long tail of sales. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's another thing that has to be done. If let's say I launch the game and it makes like 12 sales, then we're probably not going to keep developing it too much. Because I don't think it, yeah, I don't think that's salvageable, sort of. But let's say we launch a game and it's like 1,200 sales or something like that. I think it's like, okay, like keep developing for a bit. And people will have feedback. The whole point of these checkpoints was to figure out what that feedback will be ahead of time so that we can keep addressing it. And we're obviously not at a point where we're ready to launch right now. But at some point, we're going to get feedback like, oh, I was slightly confused about this. And I'd like for there to be this system in the game. Things like that, where it's like, you could just not do that and it'd still be fine, as opposed to, hey, I'm hitting a bug when I'm, starting my third battle in the game. Those are things you need to address. What about adding people to help you? I had considered this. There are a couple of things behind this. One is budget, which is everything right now is contingent compensation. So the budget of the game is $500, which is an incredibly small budget. And the other thing is that you need to make sure that there's a good fit for this new person, and you can't expect to just hire a bunch of people toward the end of a project and get it done faster or make it better or anything. Yeah. Guess you have to trust your gut and user feedback. Yeah. I agree. And I think that's where these checkpoints will come in handy too, because again, at some point people will just be like, hey, I've never even heard of this or the game or you or anything, and I like what I'm seeing. And at that point we can sort of trust that, okay, the average person might like this. Yeah. Hey, Scott. Yeah, that prevents healing I have written down, yeah. What are you splitting the money to? Oh, what is it spent on? This is almost entirely just production of the game. So for example, Steam costs $100 to release on. The Apple dev program or whatever costs $100. The site costs, I don't know, like $15 for the domain name. What else do we spend money on? The asset pack was 50. The sounds we need to buy are going to be probably somewhere like $50. I actually don't know how much. And there's something else I'm forgetting here. I don't remember what. Anyway, things like this, where it's pretty much already all dog-eared. Merch samples. I don't count the merch samples. In my mind, that's like a fun thing to the side of the game. I guess you could lump it into marketing, but I'm just paying for that stuff out of pocket. Yeah, the self-signing on Apple is this, the $100 for the dev program. Looked up how to add leaderboards to a game. I could potentially, I don't know. Yeah, I think we have a lot to do already. A couple people have suggested something like leaderboards. Yeah, you get the money back for that. Yeah. I'm not concerned about the like, will I run out of money as an individual by funding this game? It was more like, I don't want to just break through the budget, and I want to be very careful about what I'm doing. And at the same time, I recognize that spending more money could help quite a lot. Anyway, this is life as a game developer. I feel is making a billion decisions, some of which you're qualified to make, like the actual development probably, and some of which you are just totally out of your depth for. Oh, a simple free game with a leaderboard in it. Well, the other thing you could do, you could always make the leaderboard yourself and host it on a mini PC sort of thing. I know I keep recommending mini PCs to everybody, but I think they're great. I trust you'd make it, and maybe hopefully soon. I don't think the soon part's going to be true, but the make it, I do think will happen. I'm not dejected about the project. I'm just daunted by it. That's all. Yeah. Okay, let me finish reading this feedback. Personally, I prefer making more meaningful choices. Some ideas, harder capstone battles, require synergistic parties to beat and open up further portions of the game. Yeah, I like this idea. I have this written down. Okay, cool. Items that can be given to parties to carry as a group for further synergy. Yes, actually, interesting idea here. Because I think this is pretty much the equipment system. We'll talk about the equipment system more. Yeah. Allows setting the adventurer positions to coordinate positional attacks and spells. This I want to avoid because I don't want the battle system to be too complex, and I don't want you to have to start tweaking positions as well. But I always mention this. Ogre Battle 64, I think, did this really, really interestingly. Can we show the battle system here? Yeah. So for those who've never played this game, you had a grid of 3x3 and the enemy had a grid of 3x3, and you position your characters on it ahead of time. So in this case, you see these like two knight looking characters in the front and then these three characters in the back. And then based on which row they were in, front, middle, or back, they would do certain things. But the kicker here was that depending on how you entered the fight, that grid might get rotated. So now someone in the front might be in the back, or someone in the back might be in the front and do different things. And it just made enough of interest. And this was like an auto battler style thing with a couple of tiny manual actions you could do. So this, I think the game was a lot more in-depth and required that strategy. This, the Skeleseller, I want to make a little bit more casual, and I don't want to do the positional stuff. Boss should probably also have summons. We have the system in place. Why not? Yep. I think that should be a special boss that does that, though. Not every boss. Need to figure out how to use Cloudflare Tunnel to SSH into it. You want to use a tunnel to SSH in? Because I think that should be possible, but I was going to say you could also just SSH in over your local network. Because that's what I do, at least. All right, some general thoughts. Town people running constantly is distracting. Yep, gotta fix that. Include an option to have adventurers bring loot to the shops or storage before returning to battle when auto battle is enabled. Oh, I never even thought about this. Although I could see this becoming problematic. Yeah. The part I can see becoming problematic is they just have to return the loot that they found to the shops. But the shops might be full. So your adventurers might not go back to battle while they're waiting for items to sell, and you might get frustrated about that too. But anyway, there are other ways we could fix this. So I think just having more adventurers, having more workers, having different sort of customer logic. Is there a relation between this game and Queen's Song Ogre Battle? Ogre Battle 64 and Queen's Song Ogre Battle? What is... Oh, okay. Never mind. I see what you're asking. Probably not. What's the thing I'm thinking of? There was one on the Super Nintendo, and for whatever reason, it also had Queen in the name, which is why I was like, oh, this is the Super Nintendo game you're talking about. Yeah. Boss, or if you lose him, your items sell for less. You lose 10 times and you can't make any money anymore. Living in a short-term rental where everything is managed. I think there's a way around that, but yeah. Actually, you could just get your own router, right? What if you had to beat some elite pack of the current instance in order to unlock the next one? I'm still not certain what I want to do about unlocking new instances, and we need to think about that eventually. But for unlocking maybe like the level cap being raised, I think beating a boss is a good idea. I think there's got to be some flexibility there too. A lot of the game can just kind of be trivialized by idling for longer, which is sort of like how a lot of RPGs can be trivialized by just leveling for longer. It's like if you're level 90 in the starter zone, then there's no challenge, and you've probably made the game unfun for yourself in two ways. One, you grind to level 90, and two is that now there's no challenge. Wait, really? Maybe it is based on Queen. Ah, wow, cool. Yeah. All right, Alpha. Yeah. I did not know that. Getting your own router would work. Yeah, and it's probably a good thing to have eventually. Although I guess the problem with buying a router is you either have a coaxial input or you have a fiber input, but usually not both, as far as I know. Or maybe they're just costlier to get them both. So if you don't know which place you're going to eventually move to, then you might end up buying a router you can't use. Like to be able to run a Git server on it eventually, which will require SSH to work over Cloudflare. Yeah, yeah. And it's probably not bad to set up. In fact, if I just go to the Cloudflare, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm already on my way to doing it. So let me log in over here. The site's loading. Where's the zero trust thing? Oh God, I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Now where's tunnels? There. Okay, when you go to create a tunnel. Oh, I gotta save this. I want to save this. Delete me. Save tunnel. Yeah, SSH is one of the options. Yeah, it should be super simple. You should be able to just select it from a drop-down, I think, and it should all be fine. Now, hang on. I gotta delete this thing that I just made. Delete. There. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna say it. New game plus, same instances, way harder, and you take off the character level cap. All right, you know what? I'm writing this down, but that does not mean we're doing it. Why is this? Yeah, whatever. Okay. Oh, that was the somehow. New to the stream, this is a game you're personally working on by yourself or with a team? With a team. The team is in the credits thing there. And the game, technically, the latest alpha just launched on Friday. I guess this is the quickest way of you finding out everything, is that document. So this has the intro to the game, who's working on it, how much it's going to cost, when it's going to come out, etc. It's pretty short. And the reason I'm not, explicitly covering everything is because I do get asked this a lot. So feel free to ask questions, Alpha. If I respond with a command, I'm not upset or something. I'm trying to save time. I've done that. It's not working. Need to comb through the docs. I see. Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Next is the final piece of feedback here. We're finally getting there. Looked through 24 responses. So we're on response number 24. It's a little confusing knowing which adventure is in the party. Yep, I have that written down. Can't close the guildmaster dialogues. Like if I change my mind regarding one, yep, I have that written down. After loading the game problem, yep, have that written down. In dialogues, I suggest showing at the top who's speaking. Yeah, I do have that written down too. Oh, I didn't think of doing that for all dialogues, but I definitely should. So let's write that in UI. All dialogue should have a portrait of who is speaking. Starting battle after reload seems to, yep, that I know about. And I suggest adding some metadata, build the version, playtime, and name. Yeah, I don't know what I should slot this under. Maybe just gameplay for now. It doesn't really matter. Oh, no. Saving and loading. We have that here, don't we? Yes, okay. Consider storing playtime in the save file. And consider making a simple report playtime to Adam to server button. And run a simple service that collects these. Yeah. Are you thinking they'll be free and you'd use them as marketing opportunities to boost sales or paid DLC? I'm not sure what goes into that choice. My only concern right now is making sure the first launch is good / successful. Oh, also, I think Macaroni asked a long time ago now, like, what are my success metrics? And I think I just glossed over it. I read the message, but I just never responded. Oh God, was this like an hour ago? I can't even find the message anymore. Sorry. I'm not trying to ignore people. Yeah, I don't see the message anymore. Okay, well, my bad. Yeah, so this is my concern for right now. And if the game does not show signs of success, then none of the other plans would matter anyway, right? Like you have two choices if the game isn't successful. And it's drop it or try to make it successful. I guess you could also just wait. But yeah. And I think what we'll do is this for a little bit. Hope there'll be no bugs right after the full release. We would hopefully have gotten enough feedback on the game that we know that there aren't any major bugs. We'll also probably have to ramp up the automated testing closer to launch so that we can quickly iterate without having to worry. Although we're going to be fighting amongst like 40 different priorities that we have. All right, I've looked through all the feedback. There we go. Yeah. Asking your definition of success. So sorry, first of all, for not having responded to your message the first time. Now that you've typed again, I can see your message through this thing. So I don't have specific metrics that I have set up yet. What I consider to be success is at least like greater than 1,000 sales of the game. And not even from a financial standpoint, because even if I price it at $10, that's going to lead to $10,000, which then after Steam's cut is $7,000, and then $7,000 for like a year of work is not a good amount of money. So that's what I consider at least the game to have been successful. But to have recouped the sort of cost of developing and all that stuff, I feel like we need to probably make at least $200,000. And I don't see this happening, to be honest. Like it could. Maybe the game does a lot better than I think it'll do, but I don't really think this is realistic. Need more contributors for the art portion? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. The reason I hesitated there is because we always could have more of kind of everything. We could have like customer graphics, and we can have way more enemies and more graphics and whatever else in the game, and everything looks polished and special and nice. And yeah, but there's also a management cost associated with that, and of course the compensation cost. Okay, so step 1 is done, which is process the feedback. Although we have not processed the bugs. There's so much work to do. We're never gonna finish this. Oh, hey, we got more feedback. I like this more than the time-based system. I'm not completely against it. These are pretty similar. Tied to battle usage, not just time elapsed. Durability factor could give you some fun ways to play around with item stats. You have a rare item that has high stats but low durability. You could also, by the way, you could have rare items with high stats but low time. Like it only operates for a minute or something like that. Anyway, backup slots. Not sure if you intend to have this. Yep. Lore on the building. Yeah, so I recognize this from being in the email that you'd sent. And who else joined this? I can't see. Yeah, I probably can't click this with streamer mode is on. There's a reason I went here though. Oh yeah, for the bug reports. So I technically need to make sure all of these things are filed. All right, let's go through this really quickly then. I think this is important. Where did I write the thing about crashes? Here. Yeah, edit this. Kevin hit a crash as well. Discord message. All right, so that one's filed. After resizing the window using the upper bottom edge, the camera restriction zone is wrong. Yeah, this is known. What is this? Resizing forces the button back on screen. Is this because the window is too big? I don't know. It might be. Hey, yo. Yeah, I don't know. But I guess I'll just copy this into a link. The start battle button can go off screen. What in the world? A start battle. Do we have a bug on this? No, let's go make one. Actually, I put this in for a reason. The start battle button can go off screen. See Rami's message here. Oh, and then let's include the screenshot. Where's the, oh my God. We're never gonna get done. All right, I'm gonna do a 4-week long stream, no sleep, no breaks. That didn't work how I thought it should work. There you go. This is the sprite bleed issue. This is known. Changing UI affects window size, making it hard to scale back down. Yeah, this is known. Typo in this. Let's just go fix this really fast. Venomous bite. We just need to add the word chance in here. Although I think the word chance in every other case shows up before the parentheses. Is that correct? And I guess we need to put a space there. That's the one I just typed. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Wait, do we never do this? Yeah, the word chance shows up before the parentheses. Anywhere else that we have this? Yes. The to miss attack should probably be somewhere else. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, and all we care about are the ones that are in the abilities folder, I guess, which is everything. No, it's not everything, but we don't need those. Okay, any other ones of these? Yeah, this. Okay, so venomous bite is wrong. Chance to miss attacks, chance to inspire. Yep, that's good. Chance per level to catch. Good, good. Yep, yep. Oh, is it chance twice? Adds a something chance, chance. Oh, wow. How did I not notice that? What? I'm actually surprised nobody commented on this. Let's see. We need to start a battle that we win and then build this so that we unlock the skill tree so that we can click this and see. Adds a 0% chance plus 5% per level chance. Yeah, fine. Well, that's a problem. Delete one of those. It's good. That's good. Good and good. Yeah, cool. Okay. So all we need to do now is fix venomous bite. The word chance shows before this. Cool. Okay, so this is just fix skill tooltips. Yeah. Fixed skill tooltips. Fixed 2 typos. Fixed an inconsistency with the word chance. Yeah. All right, so that one's just been addressed. We're not going to file a bug on that. When pressing escape, yeah, this is known. Width of this jumps, that's known. Loading it, this is known. I think this is known. I'm not actually sure, but I think we just say that in the mega issue that I have here. I'll just copy a link to this. Quest icons can reappear. Do I have anything written about quests? Save quest progress. Make sure we've fixed this bug. Okay. What else? Battle menu covers a bigger portion of the screen than the graphic indicates. Yeah, this I'll need to look into. Actually, we have the game open, right? No, we don't. Gotta stop closing this. Also, I gotta take a break after this. And we have mentoring in a little over an hour. Okay, so it's this. I'm beginning to think that this might not actually be a problem, that it was a problem with having the alchemist right underneath this. Because I can still drag. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I can still drag by this. Do you ever get an accumulated time debt where you don't want to work on some project because you feel like you've been working on it for far too long? Probably. I think that's where just taking a vacation can usually help. Gotcha, unknown. Yeah, and I'll have to take a look at that some more. And I also need to plan the equipment system, just make sure all the major questions are answered and then it solves the things we want to solve. I'm not sure this is actually a bug. So I think what we need to do is set up the exact same scenario that Rami had. Come on. Yeah, which was this. No, I don't think that was the problem either. Oh, there we go. Ah, now it repros. Yeah, I can't drag from this area now. Interesting. Okay, let's file it. The start battle UI consumes clicks even like right beneath it or in the blank space at the bottom. Okay, Rami reported this here. I actually don't know if it's on my clipboard right now, so let's make sure it's there. Okay, I reproed this myself using the V0.3 build, but with a slightly different view of the battle screen. So mine was here. All right. What is this? Items for which the store has not yet been built. One hand not being drawn until I start dungeon. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, now what's this one? Skipped a quest by bringing in the item for the next quest before finishing the first quest. I think it just completed the first quest and gave me the second one. Okay, yeah, this is something, this dialogue just needs some padding, but I'll write this down. I'll file this as a bug. Ghost of items appeared. This is very worrisome. We need to file that too. To check if there are any saves on disk and suggest you load it if there are, otherwise do the onboarding. Yeah, that's something that is like a beginning of game experience thing that I've got to work on at some point. This is borders of NPC dialogue. NPC buttons and dialogues are cut off. See Rami's message here. And copy a link to this. Or copy the image itself. Okay. It does seem rare. Yeah, but it is very worrisome. So ghost of item appears, can't be picked up, doesn't disappear. Two separate occurrences and it happened in the exact same position. Can we get it happen on my own save? Couldn't replicate after saving and loading. Seemed to have something to do with manually moving items. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head what could cause this. And they're there just on the path. There was a bug originally where when you loaded a save file, items would have collision. So that if a character picked them up, the character would move, but the items would get stuck on the terrain. but I fixed that. Yeah, I don't know what could cause them to get stuck. I'm just going to write to investigate this. Investigate how items could get stuck as ghost items. See Sinistello's Discord message here. And copy the image. Okay. All right, so now we have processed all of the feedback. And that took, what, 2 hours? Actually took longer than that because I started this document over the weekend. And even then I had other things I needed to do there too. So next we have to prioritize the feedback and start stabilizing some of this stuff. However, I'm going to take a break. So we'll start this stuff when we get back. And then I have mentoring in about an hour. So anyone who is interested in watching the mentoring session, it's all the details are there. This is session number 8 with Kyle. So it's the first session number 8 that we're doing. Yeah, wow. Crazy. This is going to be coming to a close pretty soon, actually. All right, I'll be back. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Yeah, for those who've never seen this, just type join in Twitch chat to play, and then J and a number to jump. Have fun jumping. See ya. Sorry, if any of you just heard a sound, I accidentally pressed a key on the keyboard, the musical keyboard. I wanted to show you something that I got yesterday. It's a Skeleseller hoodie. Look at this. I like it a lot. Oh, Nitch, thanks for subbing. Welcome. Yeah, so I'm going to actually wear this in the winter when it's cold. And that way, I can still have button-down shirts and be warm. Close the game. All right, so prioritize. I want to figure out, actually, I'm not even sure. Not sure how much of this we should do. But house checkpoint number 3, it was good. It was definitely good. There are a lot of pieces of feedback, and I have consolidated them in this document, and we have a lot to do and a lot of little changes I want to make. Get this milk in Costco. You know it. I have a picture that I wanted to share on this front, but let me see if I can share it. Okay, yeah. Take a look at this. So you might notice here, cat 1. You start numbering our cats. We actually only have 1 cat. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so the stabilizing part. I wonder how important this truly is. The original thinking was that I would make for a better game experience for anyone who tries the alpha. But is that really important? What if we just tackled some of the new systems and stabilized later? Have you noticed an increase in players? There is actually a decrease in survey feedback. So I don't remember the exact numbers. I want to say like maybe 50 in checkpoint number 1, maybe like 40 in checkpoint number 2. Excuse me, and now we're at 24 in checkpoint number 3. No, sorry, I code cats in Lua, so it's 1 indexed. It's our 0th cat, if you want to say that. Yeah, I'm actually starting to debate whether this is a good idea. Because does it really matter that we... Yeah, I don't think it does. I haven't even finished the question. But what I was going to say is the whole point of soliciting feedback is to get new information from people. But I have enough information to work on now that I don't think we need to do the stabilizing part of this. What does stabilizing mean? This is bug fixes. Yeah, mostly bug fixes. But like the most imminent ones. And I don't think it's worthwhile to do. Yeah. Okay, I've convinced myself. So then I think I should change the Skeleseller document here, this, to probably say yeah, next build should land mid-November. I think that's it. I think we should just keep it like that. Most, if not all, the issues I encounter were either discovered on stream or would more than likely be encountered by others. That's fair. I think we'll probably need to make a public bug tracker then. Yeah. Well, would that actually have helped? Let me ask you that. Yeah. Instead of just assuming, if there were a public bug tracker, would you have looked through the tracker to see our issues reported? Also, hey, Matt. Appraisal says yes. Unknown says yes. Okay, yeah. I think we need to do that then. Oh, boy. Okay. This is going to be tough. Because we have a private bug tracker right now. And nothing's like, there's no private information in that tracker as far as I know. All right, let's maybe just type this in launch checkpoint number 4. make a public bug tracker and consider migrating some bugs over, post it in the Discord, maybe put a link to it in the game, report bug / look through existing bugs, or just open bug tracker. Some things I think are obvious, but you never know. Yeah, that's true. I think either way, I am putting some onus on players by doing this. Just by virtue of you have something you want to report. Now you have to go through responsibly reporting it. If there is no public bug tracker, then you need to just report it and hope no one else has done it. And if there is a public one, then you need to look through it and make sure your issue is not reported. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I don't think we stabilize. I don't think we worry about that, but we do need to prioritize. And I think we also need to design a little bit. Design equipment, design skills. Just make it so you can search by keywords. You can already search by keywords on GitHub issues. It's just you need to think of the same words that other people searched for. And if you have labels or some other thing, then you need to let users know that that's there. So like, are people going to go through label and be like, oh, mine's a UI issue, so I'm going to click UI and then see if they're there? Like, probably not. They're probably just going to search for their thing and be like, overlap. And when they don't see their issue, they're going to be like, okay, I'll file one. And still, that's great. We should be responsible for handling duplicates, but then we need to actually handle the duplicates. Is it time to purchase a huge item pack? Oh, you mean for item graphics? I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking of just using the current ones for a little while at least. I guess it would be nice to have a gigantic item pack that has maybe even animated items. That could look pretty cool. And the animations would add a lot. I think it'd be a lot to ask Quickie Joe to do it all. Okay, so I think I already came up with the priorities, to be honest, and I think it was this stuff. I'm not even going to do this. But we do need to we need to spend some amount of time doing that, probably before we launch. So I think the big ones were skill trees, boss monsters, balance, equipment. I don't think we can target mid-November. I don't think it's possible. Yeah, we have too many things we want to do. I want to design the equipment stuff, though. I think that's what we're going to do right now. Tag stuff from feedback with this. Okay, cool. Yeah, I have been very lazy about tagging bugs. I feel like I'm at the point where this is me. Yeah. This is fine. I'm just trying to stay afloat here. All right, let's look through the equipment stuff. So the original system that I designed was this. Let's copy this. And I'm going to make a new document for this. I don't even know if I have a place where this should go in in my drive. I think I've been saving it under idle ascendance the whole time. Yeah, look at this. Look at this folder. Idle ascendance, game design, code guidelines, Scratch. I'm just going to make a new one. They changed the shortcut for this, though. I think it's Alt-C-T. Oh, I can't type Alt-C on this because it's already a shortcut for something else. I had to click new. Unless the Mac shortcut is different. Man, it used to be... Oh, it's Control-C now. Oh, I can do that. Okay, cool. I think it's Alt on Windows. Maybe not, though. All right, so what are we calling this? Skeleseller equipment. Finally. Yeah, so here's our document. Now let's do the old paste from Markdown. All right, so original design. And I'll copy a link to my message. Discord link. All right, after 1 to 2 hours of playing, you unlock a thing. You drag an item on the slot's affected, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so questions. Should we have a time-based expiration or a usage-based expiration? aka durability. What other questions do I have here? How should you drag items onto the slots? How does the storeroom work? How do you trash an item that you no longer want to use? One way could be to drag it outside of the slot and then confirm its deletion. And I had some other stuff written here. Showing equip items on the ground. Another way could be to drag a new item on top of it. And what's this other stuff? Yeah. Oh boy, Caleb. He's gonna show up at your house. You left this at work. Tosses the keys on your table. Now imagine keeping items in the storeroom could give you buffs. Oh no, we don't. We don't imagine that at all. It would actually be kind of interesting. Fine, I'm gonna imagine it. So your storeroom would essentially serve as your equipment. Actually, it could be kind of cool. Okay, I'm gonna make a scratch section here. Kind of cool to have a mannequin that you equip with weapon and armor. I guess you need it to look that way. No, never mind. Yeah. This would involve like making the graphics work with a mannequin. Okay, so what if your storeroom were somehow tied to the equipment system? Dark suggested that the storeroom, the existence of items in the storeroom could just be the buff system. And I think it would be a mess of buffs at that point. Limiting to 3 seems more reasonable. The equipper's an awesome idea. I'm happy with how it's shaping up. I think we have some kind of minor questions to answer here. And then, yeah, what do the items do? And then some tasks that I need to make sure we have. Items will need tooltips even when they're on the ground. We probably need a way to show that items are affecting the current battle. Maybe there's a question mark button that you hover over to the left of the flee button. Or it just looks like an item or something. Or there's a faded, I don't know, whatever. we got to figure that out. Okay, so time-based or expiration-based. That's, I think, the most important thing. Let's talk about that for now. So how do items expire? Time or number of uses. So in this case, you could better plan when you need to come back to the game. Because you'd see something like affects all battles for 2 minutes. Oh, and then probably design some player-wide skills around equipment. And make the player unlock the equipper. And what do we name this? What does it look like? What does it look like in world? And where is the drag target in relation to the portal and the storeroom? This could be very important. Maybe it should just be in the storeroom. Okay, number of uses. Is there any reason to go for number of uses here? Yeah, I think this would be confusing. If you want to run a bunch of short battles, they would be consuming your items. Yeah, I think that seals the deal for me. Like probably when people are playing the game, they're getting into the same patterns that I kind of read from the feedback, which is some people had like a level 1 battle, like a forest battle running a lot of the time, just to give you some income. And if that was consuming your durability, you'd be like, all right, I can't do that battle anymore. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make it be time based. I'll just call this design. Who cares about what the original one was? All right, benefits of this system. Equipment slots. Let's fill the item cannot be removed without destroying it. Okay, items grant their effects for some amount of time. Rationale, if it were proper durability, well, I guess it's durability either way. If it were based on number of battles started, then you would be discouraged from running low-level battles on auto repeat. If it were based on number of let me write that. Adventurers. So this is not true anymore. When the time runs out, the items break. Any battles. I guess I'll write this. Any battles that already started with the item continue to benefit from the effects. The item breaks and the equipment slot is freed up. Yeah. Is it April 1st again? Is he really talking about equipment? Yeah, April Fools. I'm just kidding. All right, I think this one's answered. What do we call this thing? What does it look like in World? What do we call this thing? Well, maybe it's better to ask the question of like, how does it make sense that this is even equipping your adventurers? Like you have one sword that's somehow applying to every adventurer. And it makes me think maybe we call this the item replicator. That's not super clear. But it's just making copies of this sword for every adventurer to enter battle. The other thing we could do, which is kind of interesting, we could have a machine of some sort that adventurers walk through to get to the portal, and the machine equips them. What if items were assigned per battle screen? So I should probably write this as the rationale, because I have not written that yet. Yeah. Rationale for equipping in one centralized location. If you had to equip per battle or per adventurer, you'd be doing this tedious task too frequently. Yeah, per battle, you start maybe like 3 battles per minute, and you have 3 items, so you'd be doing like 9 clicks per minute, probably more than that to manage this. And I don't think that'd be good. Yeah, so this would actually make sense. If your adventurers like walked through a thing that equipped them with items, but that would be probably pretty hard to represent. And the portal could just be that thing, I guess. I kind of like the idea of like a steampunk machine that we just call like the Equipomatic. Yeah. And it's just connected to the portal. How would that look? I guess we have the portal why is this not working in town? Yeah, we could just like attach something to the side of it. I saw it as you assign it to a battle and it lasts for X battles on that. Oh, I see what you're saying. When you say battle screen, you mean like the slot in which all subsequent battles will appear. Okay. That's interesting. Barracks, training grounds, and war logistic. Does the mechanic have to be tied to the portal? So you don't ever really need a full explanation of why this makes sense. Like how can a person in this world cast a fireball from their hands? Like, oh, it's magic. Okay, that's our explanation. In this case, it's you're putting a sword into a slot that's somehow going to last for 4 minutes and affect every battle in that 4 minutes. Like, how does that make sense that a sword is being applied to many different things? And even if you had a barracks or a training ground or something, it still doesn't really make sense. It's like if you had 5 knights in your little army, you'd want 5 swords for those 5 knights. But somehow we're making it so that you only need 1. I guess another way this could be done is that you bundle the swords somehow. So maybe you get a bundle of 3 and then they last for 2 minutes. Could have a battle slot for easy fight with cheap items, medium with mid items, hard with the most powerful. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm not inclined to want to do it that way because then I feel like you're battling a UI issue, which is how do you reuse your battle slots accurately? So if we just start this up, we create an instance over here. Okay, so you have applied some items to this battle. This is your powerful items battle. And now you win the battle. You're like, oh, I want this slot to be in a different space. So you click close. Like, do the items go away? When you start a new battle, which slot does it go into? So in this case, we just started in a new slot. You might be like, I want it to be over there. The items are applying to this one. So I'd be concerned about just the UI of that. And I like the idea of them just applying sort of here somehow. I don't know where we put this thing. And I think maybe what we need to do before we come up with how this thing is exposed in the world, we need to figure out how the storeroom is going to work. Because right now the storeroom is essentially busted. Maybe we need to design the storeroom first. Right now, you can deposit and withdraw at any point, and so can workers. The problem is how it's being used. It's temporary storage for overflow items. But if you have overflow items, then you'll never really not have overflow items. So my initial thought is to make it deposit only for workers, but you can always manually drag items out of it. You craft a magical potion out of the equipment, and this would last for X minutes, would fit the theme. That's interesting. I'll copy what you said, Tygan. In that case, what we'd be doing is we would have, well, a couple thoughts. I'm just gonna spitball here. One, we'd need a weapon potion, a potion, and an armor potion. But maybe it's not a potion that you're making out of this. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a magical spell. Yeah, maybe you're creating magical spells that give buffs. And you're this could make a little bit more sense. Yeah, you're sacrificing the equipment to cast that spell. That would make sense why it's being used. Because even a potion, it's like a potion lasting for 4 minutes. You kind of picture that each adventurer is drinking a little bit of it, but it's somehow never running out. So yeah, I think we could probably theme this as a spell somehow. Need a spot to assign items for that slot, and then when you close the battle, the items have to go back to your inventory. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Human Puppet. I do think it would probably be a little bit cumbersome. Yeah. Say the barracks extracts the essence, which is why you can only equip it once. Well, okay, so that general idea, like based on what Tygan said here, I think turning them into spells, I think is pretty cool. So they're basically like, this could be the enchanter. and they take the essence of items and cast a spell on the portal to enhance any adventurer to walk through it. Yeah. If it's you casting a spell, it'll only work while you're idle. Wait, what do you mean? It would only work while you're idle. I'm not picturing that whether you're active or idle would play into the spell, I guess, but you would need to fill this enchanter's inventory yourself. I guess actually, in essence, you're equipping the enchanter. Not really, but sort of that's what's happening. Yeah, I like this idea though. I like this. This is the enchanter. You can unlock the enchanter. Name still DB, I guess, whatever. This is an NPC that extracts the essence of items into spells to augment the portal. Augment any adventurers who walk through the portal. The enchanter has 3 equipment slots. Yeah. Okay, I like this idea. So the storeroom. Where did I write this down? Yeah. Perhaps when you unlock it, items stop going out of the ground automatically unless you don't have room in the storeroom. Yeah, I guess the problem here is that all new items would go to a deposit only location. So maybe it's not deposit only. Yeah, the pointless room. I know it is. The sprites of lore writes itself. Oh man. Magic morale. All right, so what if the storeroom became the destination for items and it otherwise functioned like how it does now? So here's my concern is that I think there's going to be a time when you want to equip a weapon and one of your adventurers takes it and you're just like, I want that thing. Yeah, I think we need to make it so you can take items out of shops. Make it so that the player can take items out of shops. Which means customers shouldn't be able to buy it while it's held. And the shop needs to become, oh yeah, that's very good. Make sure workers can't take items out of shops. All right, so storeroom becomes a destination for items. Right now, the problem is that you get the storeroom. Let's close out of all these things that we have. And let's add in a bunch of workers. And let's grant some items. Oops, that was customers. There we go. Okay, so we added some items. So they're going to try putting things in the store, but if there is no store, they're going to put them in the storeroom. Wait a second. Okay, never mind. What if workers never restocked items? They just bring them to the storeroom where items float to the target shop or stay in place if there are no empty displays. Loading to the target shop. I think at the beginning of the game, it's really important that you got characters moving those items. Because if they just started floating to random places, I think you'd be confused as to what's causing that to happen. And like, yeah, I just don't think you'd want to move things yourself. Alternative solution would be that you can select what should be delivered to the equipery. Well, how I'm picturing it is, imagine there's an NPC, like there's a little platform over here, and there's an NPC, and you've got just 3 slots. Just like how you have these slots, you just have the slots that are in world, and you just drag the item onto it. And it would do this for you. Haven't been since the first Skeleseller. Thanks, Bears. As in, you select the type of item that will fill. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, okay, got you. So it's something you do through the enchanter, and when you get the item, it's going to equip it for you. Yeah, but I think then we can't have rare items, because then you need like a priority list of here are the items I want to have equipped. And you might not know what the items are you want equipped until you actually have them. Buy workers and dedicate them to specific shops. Yeah, I think that could be done. I think there are 2 main problems I want to solve. One is the equipment one, which I think is mostly solved, and the other is how the storeroom should work. And I think a lot of the problem here, okay, here's the problem. Problem with the current storeroom is that it's an item source and an item destination, but items drop on the ground. So the true item source is the ground. And that's the problem. Once you have the storeroom, I feel like the item source should be the storeroom. Like they just pop out of a portal and go onto your storeroom somehow. They go onto displays there. Yeah, because I think this is the issue. Yeah, Okay, what does this solve though? This gives you a spot for items to show up. You don't have to worry about items disappearing anymore unless you collect too many. And if you do collect too many, then the overflow is the ground. The overflow spot would become the ground, and items could still disappear from there. Can be set to sell the item or keep the item. Each display. I think if you're like, you could click this and you could say like this should be sold, this should be. Oh wait, oh maybe I understand what you're saying. You're saying like I could essentially instruct a worker. Maybe I right click this and it's marked for sale, and now a worker comes up here and takes it and brings it to the shop where you could sell it. So they put it over here. Yeah, that's interesting. Look at them going crazy over here. Why did they even just do what they did? Oh, because they took potions? I don't even know what just happened. This will let you store items for equipping later. But then, okay, wait, how do you leave the game idle? There need to be some way of saying any item to ever touch this thing should be sold. And you won't know what item is about to reach there. It could be a rare item that you wanted to keep. Maybe that's the problem here. Maybe we need a way of you managing which items get sold somehow. New items switches the box to sell. Oh, I see what you're saying. And you could lock it, I guess. Need to manually set it to store. Interesting. Okay, then this implies, yeah, this implies that we need a different building. So basically, let me copy this here. Here's what I'm thinking based on what we've talked about. We have 2 storerooms. One is a source for items that can be sold. The other is just a source for you to drag items. Yeah, there's like a vault. Yeah. I guess there's just 2 different names for a storeroom, right? But yeah, they could be like this. So if you want to sell an item, let's call this the storeroom, and let's call this the vault. So if you want to sell an item from the vault, you have to drag it to a shop or the storeroom. I guess you could also have The thing I'm thinking is, yeah, this thing about auto selling items, you could have like a little lever in the world that you click, and that lets you choose if you want this item to be sold or not. How do items get into the vault? I guess, yeah, I guess that's the question I would need to answer. Could also have switches / levers on the item displays that let you select whether the item should be sold or not. If it's set to sell, then a worker will come and pick it up. If an item is placed on a display, it's always set to sell by default so that you can idle. How do items make it into the vault though? I guess you're picking items from the storeroom. Only dedicated shop workers are allowed to take the item to the store. That and manually sent by the player. But what does that solve? I guess the sort of the main problem here is in order to equip items, you need to be able to select an item from somewhere, the ground, the storeroom, and put it somewhere else. And you need to do that before a worker takes it and sells it. How do items get into the vault? An adventurer carries out a bag full of loot they unpack in a target storeroom. But like, how do you even know where you want these things to go? When you have an instance running here, and let's say we have auto battle on, so this gets done, and it just spews out a couple of potions already. Sorry, I know a lot's happening over here. No, we can't do this. There we go. Okay, anyway, it's just going to spew out some items, and you don't know what those items are going to be ahead of time to know that you want to save them. So what I was thinking is, when you unlock the storeroom, they'll just automatically go into the storeroom. So imagine if instead of granting the items to the ground, they're all in here. And then you'd be able to pick, you like, oh, I want this actually. And you drag it into your vault, I guess. Yeah, I like the idea of a vault, a deposit only storeroom, basically. Make the flow of ground, vault, shop have a much more explicit and optimize them individually. That's the intent, at least. Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking, at least for right now. So far, here's what I've got. We add a vault, which is a deposit, which is a place that, I guess I'll say a set of items. Let me think about this. Yeah, which is item storage that only you can interact with. Not workers. You would drag items there to store them. You would drag items from there to use / sell them. Yeah. And then when you make the storeroom, items that would have appeared on the ground now appear in the storeroom directly. If there isn't room, they still appear on the ground. And all items from the storeroom are up for sale. Well, are able to be moved to shops automatically. You buy displays for swords, hangers. That, in my mind, is aesthetic. Or cosmetic, I should say. You can have an extra like vault area up here, and whether they show as these little crates or they show as mannequins or they have like a weapon rack or something, I think that's just visual. The fact that you could drag from here up to a vault, I think, is what's important. Not the manual idea you were discussing. Oh yeah. So this is what I'm thinking, and I think this solves probably most of the issues that we have. I guess there's still the tiny issue of like, you might be just about to click this. So imagine this. I'm very slowly going over to click it. But before I can, hold on, wait for it. Oh, wait, no, that's not going to happen. Darn it, because I have auto battle on. Okay, hold on. Okay, you're just about to go click it. But before you can, oh, they snatch it right out of your hands. And expecting you to click a moving worker, I think, is asking too much. So now imagine that you could take an item from the shop and you could put it back into your vault or something like that. And we might need a right-click menu on items, like a right-click send to vault sort of thing. Usability. Maybe there's a right-click with send to vault or send to storeroom. What do people think of this idea? Because I think this can work, and I think this can work in conjunction. I think this addresses player feedback. Player feedback right now was the storeroom has no real purpose. But if we make it so that the storeroom becomes the destination for items automatically, then it prevents the items from disappearing, and it makes it so that workers don't need to take an item from the ground up to the storeroom, only to have to take it right from the storeroom again. The storeroom becomes like the source of items. In fact, maybe the storeroom never is a destination for items anymore. Although it might allow them to pick up more items, I'm not sure. Grace period before the item is picked up or sold in the shop could be useful. Oh, that's a good idea. Items pop out of the portal into the storeroom by default. Yes, and you have to build the storeroom. So when you start the game, the items are still going to be popping out of the portal. So picture I don't have the storeroom. They're still going to do this. But when you have the storeroom, instead of popping out there, they would have appeared like in these 6 spaces. And then the next ones will show up here and here and here or whatever. We actually have a suggestion to start the item displays from the bottom, which I agree with. But yeah, imagine that they just appear here like they used to in checkpoint number 1, actually. There could be a short grace period when an item hits the storeroom for where only you can interact with it. That way workers don't snatch it out of your hands. Or you even decided what you want to do. The storeroom have workers that scale as needed instead of just popping into the storeroom. I think you'll need to explain that a little bit more. Could they have workers that scale as needed? You mean like you have a dynamic cloning almost, where if you watch this portal, I'm gonna get, I guess it deleted all my other workers because of how cloning is broken right now. But yeah, I got an extra worker there and an extra worker there. You're saying like when I've got a bunch of items, could there be more workers that just appear? Because in my mind, that's something you as a player have to manage. If you want more workers, then go and make your adventurers be free from having to battle. Let me do this. So yeah, the adventurers are acting as my workers right now. Also, another thing I should say to keep in mind, and then I probably need to go take a break and then start the mentoring stuff. Another thing to keep in mind is we need something that is just good enough for the next checkpoint so that we can iterate on that and get feedback. And I think this is probably good. Like, are there any glaring flaws with this system? You have a vault, which is going to be like, maybe even it's just some corner of the storeroom that has upwards of maybe like 9 item displays. So not very much. Yeah, not very much. Maybe like less than 15 for sure. You could upgrade this just like, oops, just like the storeroom, but it would only hold maybe like 9 to 12 items. Yeah, and at first maybe it only holds 3 or something like that. Yeah. Being able to miss items is an important feature. Yes, and you'd have to upgrade your storeroom. So once you get the storeroom, items will appear there, but you still don't start with like 40 different spaces. We probably increase the price to upgrade your storeroom and maybe even gate it on some other progression. e.g. beating a boss. This way items still do drop on the ground occasionally. Having all the items magically pop into the storeroom would completely negate that cloning and adventurer thing, right? I was thinking the storeroom, also called warehouse, could have slots that you buy, like you can currently, and that implies that each slot has a dedicated worker that can go out and grab an item instead of an item magically popping in there. I see what you're getting at, yeah. Okay, so I don't think it would negate the cloning and adventurer thing, because you might still get overflow items that end up appearing on the ground. And what that means is that your machine is not fast enough. So imagine that I click grant items and they're just automatically going into the storeroom. So now I've got all of these filled. I click grant items again. There's no more space. So now they do drop on the ground. And at that point, that's where these upgrades would start to matter, because you'd be like, oh man, I need my adventurers to move faster and restock the shops faster. And you can't drag fast enough to help them. So I don't think it negates that. And I know what you're suggesting here, which is like every time you upgrade this, you're basically getting another worker. And that way, whatever your storeroom is, you always have enough throughput for your shop. When there's an overflow, what do workers prioritize? Probably grabbing an item from the ground. I think that's what they already prioritize, in fact. Pick up item. I gotta go pretty much right after this. So yeah, in fact, I should probably just go right now. Yeah, okay. I think this is what we're gonna pursue. Yeah. I'm gonna save this over here. And we're gonna put this here. All right, I gotta take another break, and then we're gonna switch into mentoring mode. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Excuse me. All right, close the game. We got to switch into mentoring mode. Oh, okay. There's one last thing I want to write here, though, which is rename the storeroom to the warehouse. I think it's better. Vault and warehouse. Yeah, by the way, thank you all for the suggestions. I'm going to give a couple of points out here. Gift to you, and I'm also going to give a point to pre-technic. Okay. All right, so mentoring prep, and beardage. Let's just close out all these different tabs we have, except for those two. All right, so first we're going to read through the document. And I think I said I wanted to read through the last session, actually. So this is the one from July. Oh, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know what's happening, I do sort of career mentoring slash, I guess, somewhat life coaching to some extent, but a lot of times just career mentoring. And this is going to be session number 8. Session number 7 was a mock interview, which is the first time I've done that with a mentee. So we're going back to session number 6 to reread the notes. This is not easy to follow if you haven't already watched the series, and I don't interact during the series with chat, so things get a little quiet in here, but some people find this valuable for their own careers to sort of reflect on what this person's hearing. All right, so let's see. Oh, right. Oh, we learned something from last time, which is just write the notes right in the next session, so I don't need to copy from Markdown. All right. Yeah, so it'll be 3 months since we've done another session. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, trying to standardize how they build components. Factoring. All right, are you still heavily into refactors? Is there any problem with that? I always copy and read the chat after. I've gotten some great feedback. Yeah, yeah. I never really thought about it too much from the mentee perspective, because usually there isn't too much chat going on, but I do appreciate when people are chatting and kind of responding to things. It helps me too to know what people are interested in, or where my opinions could change on things, or my advice could change. I think I'm getting the hiccups. Oh God. All right. Bunch of stuff to do. You put in a PR, move on to the next task. Gotten feedback from his manager. He could either strictly define things or let them figure it out and correct them in code reviews. Excuse me. What's the problem with that? Have you instilled more of a culture of either addressing this up front or, yeah. Okay. Say about how he frames this. So doing migration from V1 to V2. Try to keep V2 as workable as possible. Yeah. How are the junior developers getting by? Had a developer kind of went rogue, given a task to document how authentication worked. I remember this. Yeah, big PR. Manager wasn't totally on board. Manager was convinced at the end of it. Don't have good tests for authentication. Excuse me. There's an initiative in the last 6 months to have tests with the code you release. Yeah. Release fast and write tests. Okay, how is testing going in general? Is there still pressure to write tests, but no time to do it. Is code quality changing at all? So he thinks they write tests, but just check a box more than actually test it. Yeah. No points to write this. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're still doing okay on time. We want more staff level stuff. I recall there being at least one of the next roadmaps tasks that Kyle was given, and that was staff level work. I don't recall what that was, though. Feels like staff stuff has been tabled a bit. Yeah, because there was some news that Kyle messaged me about in Discord. I'll just ask about this in the session, but yeah, I've forgotten the details. 3 months will do that. Yeah. It was like the day after that mentoring session. Okay, yeah. I want to talk about the staff level work you were given. How has it been going? All right. Formerly mid-level engineer, promoted engineering lead. Remember this too? Okay. Yeah. So I think we're good on this front. Oh, I hope I'm not coughing the entire session, but it's looking like it's going to be that way. All right, so now I can switch into this stuff. Start the virtual camera. Virtual camera's looking good. Mentoring thing is looking good. Need to get Chrome pointed at this. And hide this thing. And open Yada. The prep for this stuff. I'm probably going to take a break from mentoring after I'm done with the current set of mentees, and then maybe get back to it next year. Although I guess that's there might not actually be a break, because I think the current mentees are probably going until December anyway. Give me a sec, still setting things up. Hey, Rama. Okay, so that's done. That's done. Now I think we just need the Discord call. Oh no, we need this stuff too. Okay, so what is the current today command? There we go. And the new one is going to be this. Today is Monday. Adam is mentoring Kyle. This is their 8th session together. Yep. And then I will change the stream to this. Oh, I should save the old one first. That's not the old one. There we go. With Kyle, session number 8. Now delete all the programming stuff. Okay. Well, I think we're all set, and it's 11:28, so we're just very slightly ahead of time. I think that's fine. I'm going to call Kyle up, and okay, I was like, I should not be showing that on screen, but it's totally fair to show. That was a public Discord. Oh, just terrifying myself over here. Good way to get my adrenaline going for a mentor session. All right, let me see. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I do not have you showing on stream yet, so wait one sec. Okie dokie. I now have you showing on stream. So I noticed that you do not have any notes in the document. Do you feel you have enough you want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Then why don't you kick this off, and yeah, let's see where we go with this.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I think as of tomorrow, I will be officially a staff engineer at my company.
Oh
So
my
I know we
God,
had-
congratulations. Wow, that's
Thank you.
huge. And also, I'm surprised you didn't tell me about this ahead of time, right?
I think we had like said next, like the basically the meeting where I would find out would be sometime around this meeting.
Yeah.
So
So how long have you
um
known for?
I think was it Thursday or Friday last week?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Found out. But it's like it's all pending like October 1st. So
Yeah, but there's at this point, short of them saying like, "Oh man, we had major budget issues or something," this is pretty much a sure thing, right?
yes, yeah, there's been it's in writing and stuff, so it's official.
All right. Well, congratulations. This is awesome. Um, yeah, how do you feel? I mean, hopefully great, but like what's going through your head now?
I mean, so I'm a little bit conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel really good at having like kind of like set my mind to something and like worked to achieve it and then achieved it. Um, there's I was okay, so essentially
Mm-hmm.
my head manager had said um, that it would be paired with a significant uh, compensation change.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, and sales were did not meet goals last year, so there's not as much. We don't have the surplus to the runway, like to preserve our runway. We're still being conservative with salaries and stuff. So I essentially got like just slightly over the expected cost of living increase
Okay, I
that I would
see.
have gotten at this review period,
All right,
which
I want to drill into
feels
that just a little bit more though,
yeah.
quickly. So, is there the sort of promise of any future compensation increase? Did an allocation of this shift somehow such that you're being given? I don't know. Is there any way to sort of spin this such that it's more positive, or is it truly just like, hey, I got a minor bump and that's it, and I'm hoping based on a promise in the future that it's going to go even higher?
Well, so because my manager has wanted to pair the role with, the commensurate salary that the role should, achieve. They said they are using they're using data based on where I live, which is unfortunate for
Yeah,
me. Two, um, the they don't have money to throw around right now,
yeah,
but it is under what he wanted to offer, by a significant margin. So it's kind of paired with like, I'm stoked that I achieved this thing, but then I have like kind of like the disappointment of, we were planning on, reevaluating some family decisions and stuff like that, and it's kind of, you know, it changes nothing essentially.
yeah. I see. Oh boy. Okay. Well, let's think about this. One is that with the title change will come the outward title change as well. As in, you could write this on your resume that I was a staff level software engineer, which is something you'd always been considering of, I want to keep my interview skills sharp. I want to get to this level. It'll look better at other companies. That part is at least still true because they won't know about your pay. And if they ask you, you certainly don't even have to share if you don't want to.
Exactly.
With that said, I think time in role matters to some extent. So I don't think you could just, quit tomorrow or something and say, okay, well, I made it a staff, which I guess this doesn't happen until October anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah. And given that your manager wanted to pay you more, it might be a signal that if there is more runway or if there is a surplus of money, that hopefully you'd be first in line. With that said, I don't have enough confidence from everything you've told me to be able to say that's a certainty or anything. Like most people say, if you don't have it in writing, it might as well not have taken place, not have existed. So I do hope that it means higher compensation a year from now, but all of that depends on the company's runway. Are you confident in the direction the company's going such that their business will thrive?
Uh, yes. Oh, just 1 second. I saw a thing. I think your scene might not
Oh
be
my
set
God. Yeah, you're right.
correctly.
You're right. Yeah, I forgot to do that. Oh man, that was quite a blunder. Thank you, chat. And increases volume a bit. We'll do. Yeah. Oh man. All right. That's really bad because for the whole video, people are gonna be like, "Who's he talking to?" Thank
I
you.
think I was in the background, right?
Huh?
I was in the background of you. I'm just like kind of like peeking over your shoulder.
You can still see the. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Well, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that, and I really should have been reading chat at least for that. I also increased the volume, by the way, chat. So you are confident about the business side of the company and that they will be able to
Yeah,
get to this point? Yeah.
I mean, so SaaS has been struggling. Um, we are trending better than most SaaS companies,
Hmm.
but we're not exploding, I guess. Like there's not really a potential for like a huge burst. Um, there's always potential for that because it's a startup that we're, still Series A, but there's um we're basically like we're competing now with other people, so it's not like it could pop off exponentially out of nowhere.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you something. What is your medium term plan in the 1 to 2 years that's about to unfold? And you'll see this, and it's not like this is, you need to set this in stone right now. But let's say a year from now, you're like, it still hasn't exploded. They're still not sort of giving the compensation I feel I deserve. What do you feel you would do?
Um, yeah, my thoughts are kind of that I should like passively start skilling up for interviews, like doing a leak code a day or something. Just doing like some level of preparation just so that I'm ready, maybe doing kind of like what I was planning before. Like ambiently interviewing, you know, uh, but just getting into the swing of that so that if I have to do, I've never done like a round of like Fang interviews before. So
Yeah.
if I were to go to that level, I would want to, um, one, have interviews at other companies first, and then, take it seriously and put the preparation into it before I did that.
Yeah. And what do you think your timeline is for this?
Well, that's kind of what I was hoping for some advice on because, like you said, like the time and role is going to be important, and there's just like there's a bunch of work that I want to do here, um, and there where my family is not like in an emergency situation, we're fine right now.
Yeah.
Um, so there's not an immediate need to increase my salary, but it's just I don't want to leave whatever money I could be accumulating per year on the table for too long before I make a change.
Yeah. So here's what I think. Based on what you said about you want to do some sort of passive interview prep, I think that's a good idea. And I think that starting that somewhat so actually there's one more input I need. Do you feel as though your responsibilities have risen quite a lot at your current job, or is it like you were already working at that level, now you're at that level?
It's been like a slow change over time. So the thing that's going to increase now is I'm going to be in every one of the kickoff meetings that involves front end
Hmm.
stuff. So I'm going to be in more meetings, and I'll probably have less IC work. But that's kind of the only change from what my responsibilities are currently.
Okay. So excuse me, not a big enough change to the point where you're like, I'm underwater now. I don't have, okay. So then I
Yeah.
would say to apply some of your energy toward an interview prep plan. And for FANG interviews, that means the big three of coding, so something like lead code, some sort of system design, and then behavioral questions. And all of them are important, and you need to devote different amounts of time based on where you currently are. And all we did is the one system design interview. So I would say definitely do more mock interviews of all three types and make sure you're prepping for all of them. So maybe not just lead code and maybe not like lead code for a month and then put it off and then start behavioral stuff and then put it off and then do system design. So some plan for tackling that. And then after, I would say it'll probably take you at least a couple months to feel ready.
Mm.
Then I would start to maybe apply to some of these, like, this will maybe sound bad, but like a third choice kind of company. So not a top company you want to work for,
No,
and
exactly.
yeah, and not something that's so low that there's no chance you'd even consider them. I feel like that's sort of using the company for interview prep, where there are services out there that exist for that. So yeah, I would say order of some small number of months, 2 to 4,
Okay.
before you consider some interview stuff. And maybe things will have changed in that time. Maybe you'll have more clarity on where your company is going. And maybe, who knows, they'll have found money somewhere, which I think that's unlikely. And they'll say, look, here it is. And you're happier where you currently are.
Yeah. I mean, there's a Series B in the future. Like that is part of the plan. I just
Yeah.
don't know when it's gonna happen.
Okay. Yeah. I'll write this down. So some small number of months for interview prep, 2 to 4 months. Um, Cover coding, system design, and behavioral. And then start applying to some like third choice companies. Every time I've done this, it's sort of like the release process you see me going through now, which is you plan for something, you finally have an interview, and then you realize from that, you're like, oh, here's where I wasn't prepared and didn't know that I wasn't prepared. And ideally, the prep gives you that insight, but sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes you feel different when you're on the spot. So I think that'll help. And the Series B stuff, do you have insight into like are you in talks at all with the CFO or are you privy to any of the sort of discussions that happen around finances at the company?
Um, they're pretty transparent, so I have a rough idea, and I have no issues asking like leadership about that kind of stuff. Um, there's no specific date involved of like when it will happen, but I know that we still have like a healthy, multi-year runway currently.
Yeah, but multi-year at what I'm gonna sort of hopefully not derogatorily term anemic levels of
Hmm.
funding is different from having that new cash influx.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's good to know. And also, you're in a good position to have a job where they value you, that you have grown at least in title. They also gave you a larger than cost of living increase, which is nice. It's nice to have that and use that as a springboard for your next job than to be in the case where you're scrambling or that you were laid off or that you have some time pressure or money pressure. So
Yeah.
that's where I think I probably wouldn't take this time for granted. And yes, start working on the interview stuff. I just talked to someone yesterday who is, I'm not actually totally sure what level, but I assume also staff level. And he has been looking for a job sort of passively for several months. And he said it's not as bad as it was in 2007, right before the recession, but it's apparently white collar jobs only grew as a total industry by 0.5% in the last year. So it's also not very heartening numbers. Um, so yeah, I think keeping feelers out for that would be good. How do you
Okay.
feel about the prospect of tacking on interview prep? Is that daunting? Is it tedious? Is it exciting?
Um, I guess more exciting than daunting. I haven't done it in a while. I feel like I'm ready to maybe like be evaluated at a higher level than I was previously.
Hmm.
But also, given that I need to do a ton of prep for the like specific cases, like for the interview part of it, like
Yeah.
for the not for the job. I feel like I feel qualified for the job now, which is nice because that's a big mental change that I went through. But the interview, I still am nervous about.
The interview was what you're nervous about. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
heard energy at first. Um, there are a couple things I would say about this. One is that interview prep, if you do it long enough, will get to the point where it's not fun. So there is a lot of mental management you have to do to make sure that you're still motivated. And I think like bare minimum is cap the amount of time you're spending per day or per week so that you're not like, oh, here's another 12 leak code problems I have to do. The other thing is the reason you're doing it is to get better and more comfortable at interviewing. And I think it's natural to fall into a case where you're like, I want to complete problems. So I'm going to tackle easier ones or ones that I know so that I can get that sense of satisfaction when that's only part of what this is about. That is part of maintaining your motivation. But a lot of it is making sure you're filling in the gaps because you could be asked anything during an interview. And if you pick your 5 worst interview prep questions and you happen to get those 5 on the day of the interview, well, then you failed the interview. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is that mental management. I think the other thing about interviews is the sort of nervousness aspect. And unfortunately, I think the best maybe antidote for that is to just do interviews. But I also think that's where mock interviews can help too. And here's a wild idea. If you were to stream your mock interviews, that would add the pressure of there are more eyes on me and more people, let's say, judging me. So we already did one with the mock interview that we did last time. I mean, you could maybe find another software dev streamer who wants to do this. We could do it for session number 9, or you
Hmm.
could start your own stream, something like that. Again, wild idea. You don't have to do that, but it would add some pressure.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I'll just write this. Consider keeping your motivation up, and that the best way through nervousness is practice.
Actually, the last time that I was scaling up to get a new job, I streamed my side project building and all that stuff, and it helped a lot to kind of keep me consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And in this case, I guess streaming a side project is a solo activity. Interview prep is almost certainly a dual activity, although now maybe there are AI interviewers. In fact, I think there are AI interviewers, and maybe streaming yourself doing that could be good. Maybe look into AI interviewers. I'm not sure if that's a thing or if it's good or if I'm wasting your time even suggesting this, but something to look into because maybe it's worth trying one of them.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we're covering things that you said are important. We've talked about the promotion and your responsibilities and interview prep. It sounds like you can handle the increased level of responsibility with respect to meetings and being in doing less IC work. You had also told me multiple sessions before this that a lot of the sort of value you felt you were adding was tied to IC work and points. So how do you feel on that front in this changed realm of being a staff level engineer? Do you feel like you have the validation that you need? Do you feel confident in your role?
Yeah, like over the last like 6 months or so, my the stuff that I've been doing has shifted less from like they would give me the odd project to kind of like get done at a you know get done and get done well. Um, but usually it's been figure out some hard stuff and then provide kind of like leadership for the lower level devs and um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's already shifted in terms of like the balance of what the work is going to be. So I'm not, um, I'm not, I'm not concerned, I guess, in terms of like losing the point delivery. We also stopped factoring that in retros and stopped even looking at what the points were because we had I had kind of voiced that nobody uses the same scale and it's kind of a silly metric.
Yeah, I think that's good. You're saying they did that for everybody? They stopped factoring it in?
Yeah.
Yeah. And generally it's been well received?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what they really care about is projects getting done. So like the points were just like an arbitrary metric. We do, there's always like a desire to figure out when something is going to be done, and that's kind of the thing we're still guessing, but it's like less based on points and more based on, you know, doing a really good spec
Yeah.
initially.
Okay, I think this is good, but I think why this is good is more than just the face value of hey, we're in a state now that people like, which is you influence this, you voiced your concern, and as a staff level engineer, I think this is now actually kind of your responsibility to do when you notice any systemic issues to be like, how do we fix this? I have a solution, not just the problem. So I think that's a lot, and you mentioned this yourself. You're getting work of how do we solve these big problems, and I think that's what your your task kind of is. So it's good. It's good that you feel good about this stuff, and uh, you also have a like a safety hatch backup plan. So
Yeah.
so work it sounds like is going pretty well. I had some kind of general questions here, but I want to have you still steer this for a little bit longer. What else is on your mind?
Um, no, I mean, it seems like the work is going well. Like engineering has delivered so much in the last like 2 quarters or something that like marketing's had a hard time keeping up with the output. Um, so, good position to be in from the engineering side. We're kind of I think we're still adding people. We just added another mobile and another backend engineer, so the team is still growing gradually.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the I just did a big refactor that I think kind of clinched the title change at least.
Yeah.
That was like I made something when I first started, like over 2 years ago. It was like this big editor, and it just kind of like accumulated complexity over those 2 years, and it became brutal. And I did this big refactor where I removed like a ton of the complexity, and I wrote like a document about how we should be making these things in the future, and I did like a Excalidraw diagram of like how the data loading and persistence works and stuff. And um, there's a lot of good feedback from that, and my manager was pretty pleased because it kind of, you know, we there's so many members on our team now that like everybody's building these forms that are pretty similar in different ways. And
Hmm.
if we could kind of align so that not everybody has to make the year and a half of mistakes that I made before I figured out how I should be doing it.
Well, and you've mentioned this sort of thing about how there are lots of components. You wanted to make them consistent. People are still just kind of going off, making their own things. I'm glad you're able to cut through a lot of this and make changes and that it's being well received. I feel like both of those things are important because you doing work and then it just kind of going into the ether also doesn't really feel good, even if you're proud of the work, because it's like, why am I doing this for the company? You want the company to be able to benefit from what you do.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want to focus on from mentoring then in this session and the next session?
Um, I'm not sure. I don't think I guess it'd probably be better put towards um, interviewing, uh, maybe, I mean, operating at a staff level is something I've never done before. I've kind of gradually gotten to where expectations are, um, but I don't know like the ambient things I should be caring about because there's there's another staff engineer. Actually, there's two in the backend team now, and they kind of work differently, and I don't think I'm supposed to work like them either. So there's not really a clear, um, you know, example within the company of how it works. I know what I'm doing and kind of like what I've been assigned, but the other, the one that's been here for a long time kind of um, keeps track of a lot of things
Hmm.
and kind of takes care of them when he can. Um, and that's something I probably need to fall into. Um, I am paying attention, and that's part of the reason why I'm going to be in all the kickoff meetings is because I can kind of help people, know that something else is being built that has, similar work or something like that. But yeah, I just don't know like what are the non-explicitly outlined things for this role that I probably should do as a practice, especially if I want to operate on the level where I could slot into a bigger company and,
Yeah.
my skills would be the same.
So here's kind of how I look at things, and keep in mind that this is different at every company. But as you grow in seniority, the very first thing that should sort of be addressed is your independence, and that part of that means building your skills so that you can eventually just be given a task and go do it. Once you hit a certain level, though, I think you're the one who sort of comes up with tasks for other people and then get them to go do it, which can mean any number of things. Guiding them at first, leading them, showing examples, making a prototype, whatever it takes to do that sort of thing. So, a very small example of this is, I don't know if anyone asks you to do that big refactor of your editor that you had, but you identified the problem. You also happen to tackle it yourself. In the future, it might be you just identify these problems and come up with like the most bare bones of solutions so that people can take it from you and do that. And you mentioned this other staff level engineer having essentially a backlog of tasks that they're tracking. You'll need that. You have your ear to the ground in these kickoff meetings, but you'll need your ear to the ground for anything that might fall under your purview so that you can eventually delegate and say, well, look, now that we have a chunk of 2 months that I wasn't expecting, this is the highest priority we need to assign things to. And then you figure out the resourcing you need for that and you assign it to that and you help out where is needed. So I think it's essentially an extension of what you've seen so far, just with that extra level of independence of even coming up with the tasks you need to do. You have stuff that's assigned to you, but at some point they're going to be like, I don't know. What do you think is the most important? And if you don't have a list of, okay, well, here's what I've wanted to tackle, or here's where I see there being a problem, then they might be like, okay, if he's just being assigned work, then I still need to do the management of him. And by the way,
Yeah.
I'm not saying there will come a time when you are coming up with all of your work entirely as a staff level engineer. There will always be directives, there will always be company needs. So yeah, I think succinctly it is elevating the independence even more, identifying problem areas, and then figuring out how to carve through all those without needing as much external help, which doesn't sound like you need a lot to begin with. But yeah. Does that make it a little clearer? Because again, this is my generic, like outside of the company, 7 mentoring sessions of insight into your work.
Hmm.
Does that, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I perceive the other staff engineer is kind of operating is like, He keeps track of things. When he has time, he'll accomplish things that are long-term issues. Um, you know, he'll delegate when necessary, and he'll kind of like elevate things as they become more needed. But he kind of just is like, other than that, he takes a small amount of regular work, but he's also just kind of like watching everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and that small amount of regular work is another way of keeping your ear to the ground because there are some ways you would just never get insight into what is the code quality? How hard is it to add a feature to this? What are people doing? And yeah, I think having a pulse on that is good and yet not falling into the trap of I like doing IC work, but it's not the most important, so I'm doing it just because I like it or there's someone better suited for this who should be getting these skills. So yeah, it's like keeping all of these things in mind at any given time. Uh, the other thing I'd probably ask is there any gap in your knowledge? Let's say you weren't doing IC work, then you might not know how healthy the code base is. Let's say you're not in these kickoff meetings, you might not know what features are coming up. Is there any other realm of darkness right now that you have where you need insight? Do you have any awareness of that?
Um, Kind of the way our org is set up is product kind of works independently. We used to be all kind of together and we used to iterate a
Hmm.
lot. Recently, we've kind of split back up again because we now have a head of product. Um, so they've kind of become more separate, and so I think I may be lacking some exposure to that. I haven't gone to any of the new kickoff meetings yet, so that may be where I get the exposure to that.
Yeah.
But um, to me, like the decisions being made of like what product to build have taken place way before we see a mock-up. So I don't I don't know when they decide that. We have like a like an internal uh, list of things we want to work on in the next quarter and
Hmm.
stuff. So they did a big planning meeting before, I think it was before the new year last year, where they kind of like laid it all out and said like, this quarter, this quarter, this quarter. And it's a rough plan, but things have already been injected um, from there. So I don't know where these talks are coming from, and that's probably what I'm lacking to be holistic.
Yeah. I would say that it's a skill to figure out how to get the insight you need without spending a ton of time. Like you could join every single one of their meetings and then spend an extra
Yeah.
10 hours a week, and that would be terrible, right? And part of this could be getting some sort of feed going, not literally a feed, but someone who's just emailing out saying, hey, here's the product decisions we made, maybe meeting notes or something. Getting something like that going so that there is insight without that same investment. But typically, people won't do that unless there's a problem that they feel they're solving by doing that. So in their minds, this is a you problem. You need to do your job better. So you need our whatever meeting notes or something. So I would say that it's not like it's entirely on you to navigate. You could talk to your manager and say, look, this could be a problem. I don't have insight into this. And when we only get these, what did you say? You only, uh, which product to build are taking place right before seeing a mock-up. Yeah. So you get a mock-up of a product and you're like, what? Like we shouldn't even be building this. For you to be able to change the course of things means you need to be in that loop somehow earlier. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would try to look into how to do that. And but yeah, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean, I see that I need to be in the process and on some level. I think the problem is like, so I'm in the product channel, like in Slack.
Hmm.
I can read the things. Um, they kind of use that to interface with other people instead of using it to discuss internally, because the whole product team is in person, and they're the only group really that's in person.
Mm,
Um, so they're all in San Francisco. Um, and they're all in a room together every day, pretty much.
yeah, that's tough because no matter what, you'd be fighting the headwind of, hey, like we had this conversation already. Now what? We got to have it a second time and write it down. And
Yeah. Or
yeah,
like, can you talk in a Slack, or like can you talk in something is like a okay, let me slow you down.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, at the very least, I think you could potentially try to say any major decisions that come out of that, or like something that you think is gonna 2 months down the line lead to a mock-up, can we know about that ahead of time? Can there be some, like, maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks you write some sort of digest about, here are the major things we discussed, and try to capture, because you are a remote first company that happens to have a large chunk of people in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, and if they want to support this culture and especially get more staff level engineers as time goes on, then this is a problem that I think needs to be addressed. So I would say try to see if digest or something. It's every couple of weeks, yeah. Something else that came to my mind as you were talking about this. The team being in person. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're coming up on your annual in person meeting again, right?
Yeah, it's usually I think it's late December or like or no, early January. Yeah.
Okay, and I know there were very extenuating circumstances that happened last year. If I recall correctly, you also couldn't make it the year before, though. Yeah.
Correct.
So I know you felt bad about it, and I don't want to apply undue pressure. I want to apply
Yeah.
regular pressure. So, are you taking efforts to make sure that you can make it to that meeting this year, or I guess
Yeah.
January, so next year?
Yeah, we're like the plan is like even if the whole family has to go, we will go.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, they'll go. Yeah. I think that's a good decision. I think that, especially given your new role, especially that you couldn't make it the last 2 years, especially that you wanted to make it both of those times, and that you heard some feedback. It sounded like your manager was, the way I described it back then was normal disappointed, as in not like, oh, you couldn't make it, but like, yeah, sorry you couldn't make it. It'd be
Yeah.
nice to meet up with you. So I think it's good you're taking efforts to make it for this coming time. And I think I would say to make an effort to meet the sales team, because you haven't met them in person, right?
I've done coffee chats, but not in person. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, make an effort to meet the sales team face to face. Or wait, yeah, sales, right? Is it sales or no, product, I mean.
Product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
product. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. There's something, I was just talking about this the other day in someone else's stream, how there's like a power to seeing the same names over and over in chat on stream. So it's like, I see your name, I don't know who you are, then finally you're like, hey, can I join mentoring? And I'm like, yeah, sure, you've been here for a while. Same thing with having met someone face to face and then seeing them pop up again in video calls where you're like, I met that person. Wow, their voice sounds totally different in person or something like that.
Hmm.
So I think that'll be good, because any requests you do make of the product team, then I think will be slightly more likely to come to fruition. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make a request because of the circumstance of them being in person and you not being in person. So yeah. Any other aspects of the pipeline that you feel you don't have insight into that you need? Because it sounds like that might have closed the loop on things.
Mm, I don't think so.
Okay. Um, as a general note, if you somehow found out 6 months from now, hey, there was a decision that was made in, widgets creation territory, I'm just making something up, and I wasn't in the loop on that. Well, now you have insight that you need to be in the loop on that, and you
Right.
make the changes to get that worked out. So cool. Only products on the radar. Yeah. So you mentioned how to act at staff level, and then also the sort of interviewing skills. And I want to make sure I'm leaving no stone unturned and not trying to, steer things too much. It's not like I'm trying to end early. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you value. So,
Yeah.
interviewing skills, what is your battle plan for that? You mentioned leak code. Anything
Yeah,
else?
I haven't done lead code in years now, so it's something that it's probably going to start really rusty, and I probably will just need to get on a regular cadence. Um, what I did before was allocate an amount of time or an amount of problems to solve per night or per week,
Hmm.
and then I've been really successful with time boxing. The kids will kind of eat up the all the available time until they go to sleep, and then so I just kind of like assign a couple days a week to dedicated time usually. But if I want to do like a daily one to keep it fresh in my mind, I can do that too. Like just assign 30 minutes to try to solve a problem
Yeah.
every night.
And I think part of the nature of solving problems is that sometimes you can will your brain to solve a problem, and sometimes it's in that backup time. You're in the shower and you're like, oh my God, that's how I should. So I
Hmm.
think spacing it out a little bit is probably good. I also think that you, just like how I mentioned, if you didn't have insight into the widgets creation team or something and you realized there was a problem, you would do something about it. With Leak Code, it's if you realize, hey, I'm getting graph problems and I'm not able to solve those, it's like, well, you should probably steer toward graph problems. And at some point, branch out into external resources. When I was doing this last, I found a bunch of MIT lectures for the area I needed, which happened to be dynamic programming. So they were super high quality. I was not expecting to ever go look at college lectures after being out of college, and yet I did. I thought they were good. And there are also communities devoted to some of this stuff, and you could probably peruse those too. So I just say make sure to keep an eye on. The whole point of this is to make sure you're prepping, and if you don't feel like you're actually gaining ground on that, that your prep needs to be addressed.
Makes sense.
Okay. System design. If you were to work for let's say just a FANG company, let's say you wanted to go work for Meta or Amazon, whether or not you want to, do you have an idea of where in those companies you might want to work? And I'm speaking sort of generically. So like cloud, like systems, some internal facing product. Do you not care? Do you want to work on front end? Like, what are your thoughts on where you'd want to be?
I mean, front end has kind of been my specialty throughout my career, so probably something user facing, whether that be external users or internal users. This doesn't matter. Just like I like interfaces.
Okay. If you were to switch. Yeah. The reason I ask is because I think that the interview process is sometimes divorced from the actual team you'll work on, so that there's a standard, like you work at this company, so you could take on any role that we might have for you. But jobs have changed their stances on that over the years. And I think even Google used to hire for the company and now they're hiring for individual roles. So it's hard for me to say that what I'm about to say is totally true anymore. But if you were hired for the company, they might still ask you things like, can you design a cloud platform, even if you're not working in cloud stuff necessarily? Um, anyway, I think you'll
Yeah.
you'll need to also do this sort of meta research on these companies you eventually want to get hired at. What are their interview processes like? Because I think that's a good amount of information to arm yourself with.
Yeah, I think I have some books on a list that I can order from Amazon too, in terms of like the system design interview and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The companies themselves typically have a lot of resources they'll share with you, and those resources are usually just the company's website with some explanation. Like Google had a whole bunch of videos made specifically for, hey, you're about to interview for us. What should you expect? And they had like an example whiteboard interview, and you can usually ask the recruiter, hey, is this going to be a bunch of whatever cloud system design versus front end system design versus some other embedded systems or something like that. The reason I say that is because software as a whole is such a large field that if you were to go study all different kinds of everything, you'd probably feel like, oh, I need 6 months of
Yeah.
one problem a day or something. What else? What else? What else? Oh yeah, behavioral questions. Have you generally done well at those before? Do you feel like you have any gaps there?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I don't think that I've ever gotten to the behavioral stage and not gotten an offer.
Yeah.
So I've never gotten negative feedback on that.
Okay. And just for the sake of me kind of closing the loop on this, for me, I think part of the struggling points in the past have been to answer these questions properly, you need to know what you did in the last 3 years. And some people,
Yeah.
they just remember that stuff and they can speak about it. But for me, I actually literally needed to go back and be like, what projects did I work on? What were the learnings? What were the difficulties? What questions might they ask me? How can I weave this in to these answers? And yeah, if you got a grip on that, or if you're going to prep for that, then it's totally fine. I think no real issues there.
Yeah, I keep a doc.
Yeah, good, good, good. Yeah, keeps doc about the things he's working on. Okay, I don't think I have anything else that's worth talking about here, given what you've talked about so far, because I had some things about the refactors, which you had talked about, testing in general and how junior engineers are doing, but it sounds like whatever is going on, you're not super concerned with it, you're feeling confident. And then staff level work, which now I know you are staff level. So, any other things on your radar? Any other thing you'd like to discuss?
I don't think so. It's kind of like it feels like full circle over the course of our conversations, but there's kind of like a next phase now that I'm here. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have anything specific.
Okay, yeah. And part of my sort of exploratory questions are to probe and see, is there something that's a problem that you might not even realize is a problem? I'm not getting that sense about really anything. And I don't think you've been so private that you wouldn't be sharing it.
Hmm.
So in my mind, things are going well. You were just promoted. I recognize that the compensation isn't maybe what you would have liked for it to be, but you have a plan on how to move forward at the current company and also how to move forward outside of the current company. So it's like you sound like you're covered on most bases. You're not fretting about anything. You're not stressed about anything necessarily. You got a plan to go to the in-person meeting this year. It's like you got your bases covered. I think you're doing a great job. And yeah, when I think of, if I were to sum all this up, and I don't have it all in my head right now and hadn't planned to do this, but some of the issues that you had struggled with originally were things like, where do I find validation in this world of changing responsibilities? Which it sounds like you're on board with that.
Yeah.
How do I navigate this new role? Which it sounds like, we've talked about a little bit in this meeting. You've got some direction. So yeah, I think if we don't have anything else, I would probably call it for now. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of reiterate, like when I started, I was kind of like a senior engineer, and I had this goal to get to staff level, and uh, I had personal struggles with the way things were changing. I had life events happen, all this kind of stuff. Like over the course of us talking, I worked through a lot of the issues with you, like on these streams, and uh, yeah, just really appreciate the like. I mean, you mentored me. Like this is, I feel mentored. I really appreciate you helping me get to my like achieve my goal, and um, you kind of helped me create a framework for how to tackle problems in the future. Is kind of like how to think about things like systemically, and you know it's like therapy, uh, plus the software, you know, framework essentially. Like
It
there,
it's nerdy therapy.
yeah, it is.
Well,
But yeah,
look,
I'm just really appreciative for everything you've been able to help me with, and all the time we spent together.
yeah, thank you. And by the way, I guess technically ending this session early, but I'm totally happy to do the ninth session that we talked about. And if you want that to be interview prep, just let me know ahead of time and I can do that.
Okay.
I'm glad you got value out of this stuff because I think I've always said my number one goal was just make sure the mentee is getting value, whomever it is at the time. So yeah, I think you've done a great job. As I mentioned, like I said, I think you're in good shape. And I think the only issue is one that's out of your control, which is the money of the company, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, if they get Series B funding and they don't give you any of that funding, I'd be like, you should probably leave. But for right now, it sounds like things are, yeah, it's fine, even if they're not as good as they could have been. So, all right,
Yeah.
I'll leave you then for session number 8. Like I said, just tell me what you want to do for session number 9, and we can plan for that. And yeah, good job again.
All
Congrats.
right. Thank you.
All right, yeah, take care, Kyle. See you.
See ya.
All right, wow, what a set of news we got there. So everybody clap for Kyle. Good job, Kyle. Thank you for joining. It takes a lot of courage, as I always mention, to be on these sorts of streams. It is one thing for me to be doing this every day because uh, I'm used to you as my audience, but for someone else to come on here and be talking, I think can always be a little bit nerve wracking. I like the gummy bear. Let me scroll up and chat really fast because there isn't a lot of it. Yeah, so sorry about the volume and everything. I did end up increasing it. And yeah, sorry. Thank you for commenting on this. Is this AI summarizing the interview? Yeah, that was just me typing. You could probably build on all the information you have. Also be grateful for an opportunity. How much is AI involved in his job? Kyle can answer if he wants to. I'm not sure if he's in chat right now, but his name is Beardage on Twitch. So I'll just copy paste this message in case he's here and sees this and wants to respond. Any love for Yaki, one of your first followers? Are you Yaki? Because I recognize the name. Get a lot of values from these. Need to tune in more. Well, I do put them all online on a new channel I made called Adam Mentors. They don't tend to get a lot of views or anything, and I don't put any editing effort into them. I used to make thumbnails for them, and I just throw them online, and that's it. So if you ever want to see, okay, what was the progress like over the course of these sessions, feel free to take a look. But it's not it's not like it's any higher quality than just watching now. Yeah. Iron Mouse? Is this a Twitch streamer? Oh, yeah, I guess so. VTuber. Excuse me. Okay, well, look, that brings us to lunchtime for me. It's 12:15. And typically, by the way, for those who don't know the context of the mentoring, these initial sessions are all free that I've been doing. So me, you know, quote unquote, shortchanging Kyle by 15 minutes is it's not costing anyone any money. So I would be remiss to do that in a real situation where someone's paying money, and I'd probably actually make the sessions a little shorter as a result of that. But yeah, so yeah, scam. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go get food. I will be back in about an hour, and then we'll continue for another few hours. We had started designing the equipment system. Our future mentoring sessions, paid sessions also streamed. Almost certainly yes, but I think the way I would do it is like you pay X for on-stream sessions and Y, where Y is greater than X for off-stream sessions. That's what I'd probably do. Yeah, and you as a viewer want your money back. I'll give you your $0 in the mail. All right, I'll be back in about an hour, as I mentioned. Thank you for watching so far. Hope to see you later, everybody. Bye.